And your favorite podcast platforms. It's the #1 destination to learn about snowmobiling, network with other sledders, and have an awesome time doing it. We'll meet other snowmobilers that share your passion and show your fan photos along the way. Snowmobile Sessions Live. Enjoy the ride.
This episode of Snowmobile Sessions Live is brought to you by Energy Power Sports. They're Oakville's full-line BRP dealer with sales and service to all BRP models and so much more. Energy Power Sports always has the fun in store with a wide selection of clothing, parts, and accessories for all your power sports passions. Make Energy Power Sports your source for Can-Am off-road, ATV, and side-by-sides. Can-Am on-road Riker and Spider, including the sporty F3S. Sea-Doo watercraft and Switch pontoon boats. And Alumacraft fishing boats powered by Mercury Marine. Put yourself on a Manitou pontoon or a Widescape stand-up snowmobile. Energy Power Sports is the home for Lynx and skidoo snowmobiles for the entire family. Do you feel the energy? Energy Power Sports, 879 Cranberry Court, Oakville, Ontario, or online, energypowersports.ca.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, Motorsport Channel had noticed Drew having a bad day, and he's been listening to Metallica Fade to Black on loop all afternoon. Is that the song, Drew? Is that the song?
Something like that, yeah.
He's got the guitars in the background, so I hope he's playing.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, you missed it. When Jonathan came on, he was jamming away, I think. Yeah, so
Awesome.
yeah, it's all good. It could be worse. They could have took him away.
Happens. Yeah.
Yeah. They could. They might still take you away.
They should have just taken the whole car, but no one could drive manual transmissions anymore, so I get it.
That's probably
Separates
it.
the men from the boys.
Exactly.
Like oh man. Well, hope everyone else is having a great day and had a good weekend and got out and maybe got some riding done. But,
yeah, for sure we did.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
We have Jamie Snyder, who's in the bottom right beside Drew. He's usually in the chat with you guys, and he reached out to me a few weeks ago and said, I got this crazy adventure that I'm part of, and sent me a picture, and he said, these are not caskets. And we're going to show those later on. And he goes, you interested to have me on the show? I said, hell yeah. And then he got Jonathan above, who's actually, what do they call a dog sled pilot, driver, rider? Musher?
Yeah.
We call each other a few things, but mushing would be the technical term.
There's actually a restaurant we go to up near Bancroft called the Mad Musher.
Mm-hmm. So
there you go. Maybe we should hang your picture in it.
Maybe there's a story behind that one.
So Jonathan, we'll start with you. Like, how did you get into to mushing, and tell us a bit about a background of what you're doing?
So this is what happens, parents, when you don't let your kids have dogs. You start collecting a bunch of dogs when you grow up. I grew up in the South, but I loved snow, and when I joined the Marine Corps, I got attached to a cold weather infantry unit. And when I got out, I decided to move here to Maine, where I'd gone through SEER school. SEER is survival, evasion, reconnaissance, and escape. And so I just fell in love with the North Woods here in Maine. And I had an old timer that said, if you're going to move to Maine, you need to find something that you can enjoy doing in the winter, or the long winters are going to drive you crazy. And I knew I loved dogs. I knew I loved snow. I had never met a musher. I had never seen a dog sled team, but I just started checking out books and adopting dogs. And 25 years later, here I am.
That's wild. What is it? How easy it is to get the hang of it? Like, they look tippy.
Yeah. There's because you're standing up, there's a high center of gravity. So you want to, if you're cruising around a corner, as Jamie found out, if you're cruising around a corner really fast, you want to lower that center of gravity and lean in a lot like you would with a motorcycle or a dirt bike.
Kind of like a skiing. You got to stay loose. You stay loose, you stay upright.
Yeah. Now Amy's with you, your wife. Have you done mushing?
I guess you could call it mushing. I stand on the runners and the dogs tell me what to do, and I tell them what a great job they've done, and I don't let go of the sled. That's the first rule of mushing, don't let go. So I don't. And I'm often sideways behind the dogs, but I'm really good at not letting go, and I have figured out how to stand myself back up.
So I think you've been watching the Great Outdoors movie too much, and when John Candy doesn't let go, you should go.
Well, usually the sled's on its side
Kind
and
of
you're
on my
hanging.
side.
Yeah. So the question I posted on social media today, what does mushing, sled dogs, and snowmobiles have in common, Jamie?
So I got tied into the North Woods, as we all do, and my buddies got me back into snowmobiling, and you run up through the North Woods and you get to see everything. And we're constantly riding those trails, and then you hop onto the dogs, you get to see something a little different. But with the dogs, the snowmobile is a tool to assist the dog mushers, break the trail, haul the supplies. They kind of go hand in hand with each other when you're a dog musher like Jonathan. So it's not the same sport, but it's another way to get tied in with the great outdoors there. But we'll utilize it as a tool to assist those mushers. So
yeah. So what's faster, Jonathan? Your dogs or Jamie's skidoo?
Ends up the ride with my buddy's Polarises.
Jamie's much faster until he breaks down. My dog team never breaks down. That's
how many times have you had to tow?
If I run out of gas, I just feed one of the dogs to the other dogs, and we keep on getting. No, but yeah, I mean, as you know, and I don't know what your what brand of snowmobiles you sell, but skidoo originally was supposed to be ski dog.
That's right.
And iron dogs are still what a lot of the Inuit and Eskimo refer to snowmobiles as iron dogs. You know, so there's and then of course you're in Canada. In Canada, when the snowmobile was introduced and became popular in the 60s, you know, there were a lot of the Canadian Inuit dogs that were, you know, put down and you know, they almost went into extinction, but there's been a lot of work there in Canada to reinvigorate the breed and bring them back. So, you know, there's a shared history there for sure.
Yeah. So what does it take to be a sled dog? Like, is it a certain breed or can pretty much any dog be kind of trained to do the task?
No, they really can't. I mean, just like a German short-haired pointer is naturally going to freeze up when he smells a bird in the bush, or a coonhound's going to want to tree a coon. These dogs have been selectively bred, particularly with the sled dogs. They've been bred for 9,000 years to exaggerate this desire to pull, to run down a trail, and to cover miles. And so it's something that's been hardwired into their DNA. It's like a duck, you know, a duckling going to water, really, with these puppies.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you say to people that think it's cruelty to animals? Like, you must run into that, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you this funny story. When I first started mushing, there was some folks up from southern New England cross-country skiing on the trail, and when they saw me coming, they pulled out their cameras. So, and I knew they were from southern New England because I saw their license plate at the trailhead. So I stopped the team so they could take some pictures. And they're looking over my sled, and they said, "Where's your whip?" And I said, "My what?" And they said, "Your whip." And I said, "We don't use whips." And you know, like, well, you've been watching too many you know, movies. But and they said, "Well, how do you get them to go?" And by this time, you know, I had both of my feet on the brake, and I weigh 200 and none of your business pounds, and I'm standing on the brake, and the dogs are lurching forward. And the way I get them to go is I take my feet off that brake. And the moment I did, you know, we just shot off. This is what they live for. You can't push a rope. And that's what's in front of a sled is a rope. You can't force a dog to do what he doesn't want to do. This is what they live for. It's hardwired into their DNA. The cruelest thing you could do to a sled dog is not let them pull a sled.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, if I leave a dog in the kennel when we go training, the neighbors are complaining when I get back about how he wails and cries the whole time we're gone because he wanted to go. So they leave.
You sure
When
that
you
just
go up to that kennel to go mushing, they're jumping in their harnesses. They are ready to yank and pull.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that tonight. That in the photos, that you can tell when a dog's happy and they're ecstatic, right?
Yeah, they just want to run. It's pretty cool. It was another take on the North Woods for me to pair with Jonathan here and actually go out on a sled. You'd be amazed what you actually see out there when your ski's not tucked up underneath your buddy's flap and you're worried about the next corner. So
I love the speed and adrenaline rush of snowmobiling. I think that's awesome. It's just something different. Like, and Jamie noted this the first time he went out with me. On a dog sled, you hear the trees snapping, with the freezing in them. You can hear the flutter of the wings of a bird as he flies by. So it's just a different experience.
Or you hear that moose coming in after you.
You can hear the moose.
We got a lot of moose in northern Maine, and you don't think about it on a sled. You see them in the trail, but when you're mushing at night and you hear those limbs just start snapping, and you can hear them running off, you're reaching like this to know if that thing's coming across the trail in self-defense. Like you wonder. Yeah. So we'll snowmobile, see 1 or 2 moose a day maybe. When you go, you might run into 10 of those suckers because you snuck up on them. So it's a whole nother experience in nature because of the stealthness, which is cool.
Ron Castellu says, how do you select the lead dog?
That's a great question. And the truth of the matter is a good lead dog is going to choose himself or herself. They say some leaders are made and some leaders are born. And I've got some lead dogs that I've made because I needed a good leader. And so I worked and worked and worked like Druid and turned one of my leaders, Druid, and turned him into a lead dog. But then there are other dogs who just keep screaming at you, no, I'm supposed to be in the front of this team. And they earn the spot by proving that. Every time the team stops, they'll lean out and try to pass the dogs in front of them. And so you keep moving them up the team. And then they're behind the lead dogs, and then the lead dogs miss a command and they start to do it right. And you're like, okay, I'll put you up front. And so some lead dogs choose themselves.
That's wild. Here's another good one too. What are the difference in roles of dogs? Like, do dogs have roles? Yeah,
they have roles. They have social dynamics. I have a junior musher. He's a Lakota Sioux that's been training with me all this year. And I told him to take his team out in front of mine and take the lead for a few miles. And his team just kept shutting down on him. And he kept swapping out leaders. And he'd go about, 20 yards and they'd shut down on him again. And I said, you know what? I said, take my team. I'll take your team. I'll figure out what's going on. And, I was there 5 minutes. I've been doing this 25 years, so I was, I said hike once. We started to go and I immediately saw the problems, started shifting everybody around, and we cruised back. And when we got back to the dog yard, he looked at me and he goes, and I said, we'll talk about it later. And then we get in the truck and he goes, how did you do that? And it's just knowing the social dynamics, knowing what's going on with the dogs and who's trying to be dominant and who's intimidated by the other one and what females in heat. And so there's wheel dogs that are the dogs closest to the team. There's the lead dogs that get all the glory. But you have point dogs, you have team dogs. And, so everyone does a little bit of a different job.
They're also trying to figure out who's in charge of the show here too, and whether it's you or them. So they'll run up to a hill and you'll get a team that shuts down on you. They're just seeing if you're dumb enough to get off. So they ain't got to pull you up the hill.
Oh, that's funny.
So they're trying to figure out whose show this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Bill McCleary says, cruel, LOL. I wish I could run my retriever all day. It might get him to relax. And Uncle Buck said he's seen sled dog races up in Kearney, and those dogs are crazy excited to pull. Yeah, that's awesome.
We were in Will, Alaska when we flew out 2 years ago, and we were watching Jonathan out there. And we were at one of the races there. The dogs were so excited to pull. 16 of them were hooked up to Mitch Seavey's truck, and they were slowly inching that 3/4 ton pickup truck across the yard because they wanted to run with the rest of the teams. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's cool. Very neat. What's the sweet spot? I was going to ask about age. What's the sweet spot for the age of dogs for racing?
Oh my yeah, so you guys need to get a room. They are they're considered yearlings until they're about 2.5 years old. And until they're about 2.5, you'll have some yearling teams even in the Iditarod, but you don't run them on a competitive schedule. The yearling teams, the dogs are about 2 years old. They're just learning the ropes. They're learning how to settle in. Their muscles are still young. It's kind of like that 16-year-old kid who's 6'3" and playing on the football team. He looks big and strong, but he's still pretty fragile compared to a 25-year-old man. So, the sweet spot is probably 3 years old to about 9 years old.
That's wild. And here's one, you can plug your new sponsor. How much does it cost to feed a sled dog team?
A lot.
It costs a lot. And, especially if you're going to do it right, just like the fuel that you put in your snowmobiles, it's really critical that, that what you're putting in your snowmobiles is the best that you can provide for it. And it's the same with the dogs. The native dog food that we use, meat has to be the number one ingredient. Dogs are not herbivores. Dogs are carnivores. And so if you're feeding them a corn-based diet, you're not doing them any favors. It's like, sending gravel through their gut. And, so you want a meat-based diet. The native performance dog food I use is 35% protein and 25% fat. So the humans, we convert carbohydrates. My wife just brought me this carbs. So we convert carbohydrates into energy, but dogs, they only do that for the first 2 hours that they're working. After that, they have this metabolic switch where they're burning protein and fat in their bloodstream. And as long as you can keep that fat in their bloodstream, they can run forever and ever and ever. That's why they are the greatest endurance athletes on the planet. No other animal can run. I know some teams have run the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod in the same month. So 2,000 miles with the same dog team in a month. There's no other animals on the planet that can pull that off.
That's insane. And how many dogs are in a typical team like that?
It depends on the distance. I mean, like an Iditarod team that's running 1,000 miles in 9 days, that they start out at 16. And the reason why they start out at 16, that's overkill, but they can drop off dogs as they go. They don't get to swap dogs out. So the dogs they start with are the dogs they finish with. But if a dog isn't having fun anymore, maybe the dog is dropping too much weight during the run, they can leave that dog with the veterinarians at the checkpoints and keep going. So, it depends on the race. A 30-mile race like we're about to have here in Maine is a six to 8 dog race. And then you can go up to, long distance could be 12 to 16 dogs.
Right on. Sled Tube says, so no vegan sled dogs, right? Jonathan's got some vegan sled dogs he's going to sell you real cheap.
We'll even give them ones to you.
Yeah. David Brenham says, his buddy has Siberian Husky and it could pull his snow machine.
Oh, 100%.
Isn't that how they train them?
So this actually, well, yeah, I was about to say, I was just doing that this week. My junior musher had 8 dogs and I had 14 dogs hooked up to a snow machine. And we went to take a break and I opened up my coffee thermos and was pouring the coffee. And I heard my junior musher go, hey. And I turned around and looked. The snow machine is off with the parking brake on. And these 14 dogs were just taking off with the snow machine. So, yeah, that's it. They live for this, man. It's what they love.
That's awesome. So how many sled dogs, Drew, can we fit on our machines for lodge sessions?
With my track record with planned ride weekends, I should probably bring sled dogs as a backup.
That's right.
They'll make it home every time.
Perfect.
That's exactly.
Better than, yeah.
How are they instinctively for finding direction? Like, are you guiding them left to right, or they pretty much know where they're going?
So yeah, we do. I mean, on new trails, G is right, haw is left, and those commands come from, back when homesteaders were moving to Alaska for the gold rush. They, teamsters that have teams of oxen and teams of draft horses, they'd say G when they wanted their draft horses to turn right, and they'd say haw when they wanted them to turn left. So we give them those commands. But to answer your question, they have a built-in GPS. I was just on some trails that I had not been on in 3 years, and the trails had all grown up. I kind of lost track of where I was going because nothing looked the same anymore as it did 3 years ago. And my lead dog, Vodka, she just turned off the trail and started shooting down into the woods. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And then I started looking around and I'm like, holy crap, she's right. This is the direction we're supposed to be going. And we had not been on that trail in 3 years. So they know where they're at. They know what they're doing. It's like, it's programmed. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So Vodka's a woman at that with a good sense of direction.
You don't need Amy on the back of the skis behind you calling out the backseat driving directions, huh, Jamie? So when you were going back to what you said earlier, when you're mushing, they're not going whoa, 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 whoa. They're actually super quiet as they run. Like they don't really make a sound.
Yeah, I'll let Jamie answer that. Go ahead.
So you go up to the kennel and they're making all kinds of noise and they're yipping, they're howling, they want to run. But the minute we pull off Jonathan's land there and we get on 81A, all you hear is the jingling of your tug lines and maybe a little heavy breathing. That's it. It's completely peaceful. That's why you can hear them moose running off and them twigs breaking and whatever thrashing of whatever animal you've scurried up in the middle of the night.
That's very cool.
Yeah, if you're traveling into the wind, I can't tell you how many deer yards I've just flown into before the deer even knew we were there. You've got grouse flying into the sky. I've seen fisher cats crossing the trail and Canada lynx. It's just pretty sick. It's awesome.
Which can lead you into some trouble because they'll want to take off after whatever they just flushed.
Then they will bark.
So then you'll make noise and then you're going for a ride.
That's funny. Here in Quebec, we have Chris Watson. Here in Quebec, we have a horrible reputation protecting sled dogs. How are things in your neck of the woods when it comes to ensuring the safety of these dogs? He says, sorry, I'm a big time dog lover.
Yeah. And so this is the thing that people need to understand. There's probably no bigger dog lovers than mushers who dedicate their lives to them. Snowmobilers, no disrespect to you snowmobile guys, but when the season's over, you get to park that in the garage and you don't have to pull it out until the snow starts to fly again. We pull
them out all summer and we watch them and
run them on the lakes, right? You run them on the water.
Well, you got to go to the drive-thru somehow and get a coffee.
So this is a 365-day a year thing for us. We live it, we breathe it. Our days are filled with dogs, so I have heard horror stories, because not everyone is ethical, when I worked in New Hampshire with 160 rescued tour sled dogs. Shout out to Neil Bailey at Muddy Paw. He rescues sled dogs. A lot of his dogs were from Connecticut, so I understand from Quebec. So I understand what your commentator there is saying. But by and large, people have to understand these are not your little foo-foo Chihuahua sitting in your lap. This isn't your little Pookie. This is a dog who is just this far away from a wolf. They have been bred for 9,000 years in the Arctic to do what they are doing. They love it. They live for it. They have a completely different mentality than your little Pookie Poo, that's sitting in your lap when you're eating dinner at the dinner table. They have a completely different mentality. They have a completely different body structure. I'll just give you this example and then I'll shut up. You know how when your blood goes to your extremities, it gets cold, and then, you pump it back to your core and it gets warm again. These dogs, unlike any other breed of dogs, these dogs have a heat exchange system in their extremities where they're actually warming up the blood from the hot blood going down to the cold blood coming back in the extremities before it gets back to their core. They got extra fat under their pads that other dogs don't have. I mean, they are biologically engineered for this, and it's what they live for.
I think too,
And here's another good question about that, about their insulation. Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was just going to say, Jonathan, I think you guys too, as mushers, work a lot with the local snowmobile clubs and make awareness that you guys have dogs out on the trails for safety.
Yeah, that's pretty key. I mean, I don't know how it is in Canada, but the snowmobile clubs here get government funds to groom the trails, but then they have to keep in mind that these trails are multi-use trails. They're not just snowmobile trails. So, there's going to be cross-country skiers out there. There's going to be snowshoers out there. There's going to be dog sled teams out there. And that's why it's so critical that, people keep this in mind. And all of the locals, 99% of the snowmobilers, they love seeing the dog sled team. 99% of them are going to pull over, take pictures, want to see the dog team come by. But you've got that 1%er, that's up from Massachusetts that, just bought their, gazillion dollar snowmobile and want to see how fast it can go and go by you at 100 miles an hour, and your team jumps off into the trees and gets wrapped around trees because, they wouldn't even bother to slow down. But that's literally 1%. 99% of snowmobilers are just fantastic. They love sharing the trail. They love seeing the dog teams out there,
Yeah. So Mike Galitz, the Motorsport Channel, says, how do you run them in the summer? And is heat a problem then?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's nothing that that northern Maine or southern Canada can throw at these dogs snow-wise or temperature-wise that they aren't biologically engineered for as far as winter goes. But summer is where you really have to worry about these dogs. And in the summer, for me, especially with these Arctic, traditional Arctic Spitz breed dogs, the summers for me are just about keeping them cool, just about keeping them hydrated, because they can overheat really, really easy in the summertime. So, it's kind of like having a polar bear, at the Florida Zoo. You don't want to push that polar bear until the snow comes.
Yeah. So you don't do much except care for the animal.
And there are some other mushers who have these racing dogs that are mixed with hounds, German short-haired pointers, and all this stuff. And these hound dogs, they can start training, late summer. They can handle, higher temperatures than my Arctic dogs can.
Nice. Ethan Nichols, thanks for joining the show, buddy. How many miles do you travel?
This is actually my nephew.
Hi, Ethan.
Is it really? Yeah, right on. It's a new name I didn't
We got
recognize.
some newcomers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is a new name.
Yeah, so
he's 12, little guy.
Mitch Seavey, who's currently a 3-time Iditarod champion, and his son is the only person in history to have won the 1,000-mile Iditarod 6 times. I got the privilege of training with them. They have 3,000 miles on their dogs before they go in training every season. 3,000 miles on their dogs before they go to run the 1,000-mile Iditarod. So they're running 4,000 to 5,000 miles with that team of dogs every winter. So you want to talk about guys who know their dogs. These guys live, eat, breathe, sleep these dogs day in and day out.
But in a day, you could run 40 miles, no problem. You might put 75 miles on. It all depends on the rest schedule and what you got for conditions out there on the trail, how bogged down you are, how heavy you are at 200 and something pounds.
Jonathan, are you one with the dogs? Like, can you're going to see it in the pictures too. There's a lot of, they're like your siblings and there's a lot of love there. Like, can you tell when a dog is not quite into it?
Oh, for sure. And that's one of the cool things, to harken back to something Jamie said earlier. That's one of the cool things about dog sledding. You're so present in the moment. I did a 7-day solo dog sled expedition a few years ago, and I spent 7 days crossing the North Main woods, just me and my dogs. And, you're not worried about bills. You're not worried about your job. You're not worried about, custody battle with the ex, or, whatever's going on back home. You're literally in the moment, tuned into every one of those dogs. And you're thinking, okay, Frost just kind of shifted her shoulder a certain way. Maybe she's got an ice ball in her foot, and your brain is just monitoring the team to see if there's any problems anywhere, seeing who's running, who's excited, who's not, who's eating well, who's not. That hawk that just swoops down over your head from the tree, behind you, you're just so present that everything else just kind of fades away. And so there's this symbiotic connection between the musher and the dogs, and it's an outgrowth of. I tell people all the time, if you study natural history, the Inuit and the Eskimo of the Arctic could not have populated the Arctic without the sled dog, and the sled dog could not have lived in the Arctic without the humans. There's this beautiful symbiosis there that we just, I like to keep it going. I like to keep that connection.
It's just like riding our sleds. When you tack one of them out and you go, oh shoot, I'm down 200 RPMs for what I typically will clock out here. Am I just sticky on my Hyfax, or is there something going on? You get tuned in just like that. Whereas if you hopped on another team or another sled and it only pulls 78, you're like, oh, well, that's normal. But when you get mush in the same team and you're quiet with them, when something's up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We're gonna do a roll call in a second and have a break from one of our sponsors. But Ethan also followed up his question with, how often do you guys crash?
I crash a lot.
I had a good wipeout last year, a fresh set of a couple years ago. Coming down out of Jonathan Kennel is a heck of a hill, and they're fresh in the morning. They're ripping on you, and when you hit 81A, where that groomer's cut the side of the hill out, because it's 81A's perpendicular, that's a 3-foot jump, and I'm usually good for bailing there and crashing, but it happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you this story real quick. I mean, that corner pretty much gets everybody. So Jamie was new, and I kind of expected. I was really happy though, because he had his little camera on recording that, and so we have this video of him biting the snow there on that corner. But when I went to Amy said rule number 1 of mushing is never let go of the sled, and then rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. But there are times when you should let go of the sled. And I drilled that into my head so much of holding on, that when I was in Alaska, I was coming down a ridge and 12 champion Iditarod dogs just flying down this ridge. And the sled went to topple over, and my leg post hold in what I think was a moose print or something. So my leg post hold in it. And, we're going straight down, and my knee just kind of cranks out back. And, I'm like, I can't let go of the sled. I can't let go of the sled. And I hear just my knee going bing, 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 bing. And I completely destroyed my ACL, my meniscus, and my quadricep. So that was one of the times when I should have just let go of the sled. It would have been fine. But if you let go of the sled, the team just takes off. They're not going to come back for you, and they're not going to go wait for you. They're just going to go.
They won't eventually come back and wonder where you are, or they just really have that little care.
They're like, heck yeah, the dead weight is off the sled. Let's go.
Do they send one of the dogs back to get the native dog food, and then they'll be back on the trail again? Oh, hey, Jonathan, by the way, we just need this. See ya, buddy. No hard feelings. We'll catch you. We got a couple more questions. Drew, do a roll call, and then we're gonna run the.
There's a question that keeps popping up, but let's do a little roll call for the chat tonight. So we got Point Skate 100R in here as usual. Good to see you, bud. Ron Kestelutz, Chris Watson, Corey Brock's in the house, moderating as always. Says good evening, fellas. Motorsport Channel's in here. Uncle Buck. Olive Garden Gnome said he's back. He's pumped to be able to join this one live tonight. Life had gotten in the way. Savage 1 corrected you on the Mad Musher. It's in Whitney, and I also was going to correct you on that, but we kind of got rolling there.
But what did I say about that? What did I say in response to that? I said, I'm not 100% geographically accurate ever. Ever.
For sure.
Yeah.
Pat Yegakick is in here again. He's a guy that's been popping in night after night. Sled Tube's in here asking if anyone's done any midweek riding or planning on doing, any midweek riding this week. Who else? David Brennan said his buddy has. Oh, that was the guy that we answered a question from. Yep.
Yeah.
We got that one. Odie, the sled and truck guy, says, good evening, everyone. Odie, I hope everything's going well up there. Saw some pictures from the weekend near Baysville there, bud. Looked awesome. Ethan Nichols is in there. We answered one of his questions. And I think that's everyone that sent a message. Even if you guys don't have a question, you just, there you go. Northern Scrogger says, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's way more
And
in there.
Just me, John.
There's 62 people in the chat, so just type in hello, even if you
hello. And on the questions, one question that popped up a couple times said, I'll just use Mike's. What's the speeds that you travel with these dogs, and does it change based on the amount of dogs?
Yeah.
And what's the average speed that they train for?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're training for. Sprint teams can run about 20 miles an hour for 10, 15 miles, which doesn't sound fast when you're on a snowmobile, but when you're sliding around in the woods and bouncing off of trees, 20 miles an hour is plenty fast. But when you're training for distance, especially for long distance, you're going to train for about 9 miles an hour is about the average for long distance training. So you want to hold them back to that. The dogs will run much faster if you let them, but you want to pace them just like a marathon runner. You want to pace them so that they can do the distance instead of burning themselves out.
So you'll actually drag a brake, which is just a snowmobile track with a set of picks in it that right under your feet, and you're jumping on that to drag them back to that 8-9 miles an hour. You think you're slowing them up and wearing them out, but it actually helps your longevity with them.
On the sleigh, is there a name for the sleigh? Is it a toboggan? Is it a sled? Is it a sled?
Yeah, and if you're in the Arctic, your Inuit brothers there in northern Canada, they call them, they're sledges. They have their native name for it, but those big flat ones that they actually sit on, those are sledges. But what we mush on is a sled. Yeah. And
on the skis or the runners, do they have like carbides and things like that?
Yes, we have quick change runners with QCR quick change runner QCR plastics that slide on and slide off, and you can
just like a set of Hyfex.
Yeah. Or here's a thing from our sponsor. Tired of dealing with worn out carbides and scratchers that just won't scratch your itch? You deserve better. It's time to upgrade your ride with Quali Pieces. Quali Pieces is the leader in specialized snowmobile accessories, bringing you innovative products that solve the everyday problems we all face on the trails. From their durable, long-lasting carbides, Trailblazer ice scratchers, to their ingenious roller ski, Quali Pieces has redefined quality and performance. Have a taste of their specialized carbides at qualipieces.com and take your snowmobile to the next level. See, you need
better on those transitions.
Yeah. Hey, you roller skis, you could have those little roller wheels and pop them down, and you could fly on any hard pavement, anything like that. I'm telling you, I've been riding his sled the last couple of days, and those roller skis, man, I'm telling you, it's awesome. Gas stations, road runs. I put him out with Paulie the other day, and he was blown away. Yeah,
you can actually get into the gas pump without.
Oh, dude, it's hilarious. Well, I love doing it because when you're in a big group of people and everyone's lifting over, and you just stand off your sled and you go floop, floop, get back on, and it's like you're driving on wheels. We have a video.
Cut the line to the gas pump.
Oh yeah, we have a video from when we first put them on. I drove all around town with them on in October. I went through a McDonald's drive-through.
Yeah, we saw the vid.
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah, we watched, man.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Good to know.
Speaking of wheels under snowmobiles, you might want to ask Jamie what happened to his face today.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Check out
this
his
earlier.
face.
Yeah.
Oh geez.
Oh no, what happened?
Well,
His
I was just
wife.
on a set of the sled wheels, which I thought were the greatest thing known to man because I weren't scratching up my floor anymore. I didn't. You push them down and they lock on the grab. I was in a hurry having one of my tirades and didn't let it latch. That thing come up with the weight of the sled, whacked me right upside the head. I was on the floor for a minute. Ooh. The only thing worse is a high lift jack handle ratcheting on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So they're now in the garage without the sled wheels on them.
That's
But
Jamie's
awesome
story
product.
anyway.
Bad.
Jamie, blink 3 times if it's domestic violence.
No, we always look like we're hurt, but we've actually ourselves separately.
One of us is usually stove up in one way or the other.
Ethan's got another question for you, and this is a great question. Do your dogs have to take breaks often? Like how long can you continuously run them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I learned a lot from training sled dogs from the Iditarod champion Mitch Seavey when I got to go up and train with him. So what we do is I do 6 days of 2-mile runs starting in about September. And then I do six days of 4-mile runs. And then I do 6 days of 8-mile runs. And we go on and on and on. And so, for example, when we first did our first set of 40-mile runs, I would break them twice during that 40-mile run just to make sure they were hydrated. About 12 miles out, and then another 25, 30 miles out, I'd break them again, make sure they were hydrated. But now they're at a point to where they can run that 40 miles without stopping at all. And a lot of that depends on the temperatures outside too.
And what speeds are they running that 40 miles at?
At about 9 miles an hour. Yeah.
That's pretty good, right? I don't think I could run 9 miles an hour for 40 feet.
Yeah.
You don't realize how out of shape you are trying to run beside those dogs. Because at the end of the day, when you come up to those last couple of hills, you're going to help them out. And you're in muck boots, your snow pants. Next thing you know, you're shedding layers and you're holding onto that sled, trying to use them to help you up the hill.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Well, we got there's going to be more questions, but I want to get into the photos because there's some questions I want to ask you, but it's going to happen when we start seeing some photos.
Okay.
So I've got another spot to run for Fast Track, and then we'll get right into the fan photos. We've got some photos sent in from some of the people here. So we'll get right to that and we'll keep the show going.
Go. Fan photos are brought to you by Fast Track Snowmobile Traction. This season, quit sliding sideways on the ice and losing races to your buddies. A Fast Track stud kit will help you with improved braking and give you the arm-ripping acceleration you crave. I put over 3,000 clicks last season on my Renegade 850, and I'll tell you, these studs exceeded my expectations. Not one broken stud, my Ida wheels still look like new, and they hooked up like I was on rails in the twisties, inspiring confidence every ride. Fast Track Top Gun kits are the highest rated stud kit at 4.9 stars with over 230 reviews. The studs are heat treated stainless so they are strong and they don't rust. The kit is lighter, easier on the track, and has a lifetime warranty against breaking. Each kit comes with a track specific template for complete balance with over double the scratch lines from stock templates. All listeners when purchasing a stud kit can get a free install kit, a $30 value. Visit fasttrack.co, add both products to the cart, and use the coupon code SNOW at the checkout. That's fasttrac.co.
Right on. There we go. Drew's frantically typing away down there. I got to just take that banner off your face there. Here we go. Perfect. Awesome. So looks like we lost Jonathan, but he's got a beautiful painting, some birch trees back there.
He's probably running and getting those carbs.
He's got to unload. He's got to unload some of the carbs.
Maybe he's got a week when he gets back.
How did you and Jonathan meet, Jamie?
That was I don't want to call it a mistake, but it's created a lot of work. I lucked out and met Jonathan, and the great guy he is, through Amy here. So she took Jonathan on as a brand ambassador for Native. And Alaska is actually where we really started hanging out when we went up there. I texted him to see if he needed anything on out there, and The guy actually told me I could bring him a cup of coffee. No, I am. He wants me to wait on you.
He literally said that when you texted him, like, hey, I'd love a cup of coffee. This one looks at me and goes, what?
So through my wife, I got to know Jonathan real good, and it's created this awesome friendship.
So Amy got Jonathan a secretary, is
He
what
hooked
she
us up.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a secretary.
I think
No,
you should meet my customer. I think you would like him. And it's him. So he's like, I don't have time for that. I'm going with you. I'm not doing your stuff. And I'm like, okay.
yeah, we're typical dudes, you know. It's like you know, we're so, you know, so focused and so locked in on what we've got going on and what we're doing, and sometimes, you know, we need our wives to say, hey, you need a friend, and you know, and you know, like this expedition that we've got going on in Alaska this month, you know, yeah, you know, this is something I've been working on with the dogs for 25 years, and it's something that I'm technically heading up. But if I'm the head, Jamie's the backbone of this expedition. Like he's the one that's the shaker and mover that's making a lot of things happen, and couldn't be doing this in the way that I'm able to do it without him. Really glad to have him on board.
And at the same time, without Jonathan's organizational skills, we wouldn't be pulling this off either, because I've never gotten itineraries before like this. I usually just fly by the cuff and fix it as I go, and I'll get there, but it ain't going to be organized. But Jonathan's brought that to my life, some organization.
That's good. That's good.
So maybe we balance each other out.
Yeah, no problem. Speaking of balancing each other out, this is our friend Brad Bender. We went for a ride on geez, what day was that? Tuesday, Saturday. I guess it was.
Oh no, this was the one that happened midweek. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, this was Tuesday, and yeah, he pulled up to darn it. I was going to post a link to the video in the chat, but he actually pulled up to he is parked down the street. He pulled up. I'm introducing him to my buddies, and someone yells over, "Hey, dude, your sled's on. Hey, buddy, you're on fire!" And I look over, and there's smoke and fire shooting out from under his 900R. And
we can't show my buddies this.
Fuel leak probably then.
Yeah, it was fuel spewing out, and it was hitting something hot, and I ended up. There was a couple guys with fire extinguishers there, and they emptied them, and they weren't full out. They were just going, and the one guy was really tactfully blowing it into places. And we thought we had it out at one point, and someone said, "Why don't you drag the sled back away from the cars?" And the guy, I think he might have been a volunteer firefighter or something. He goes, "Just wait to see if it's out." And it's in my video that I'm putting out tomorrow. Is that all of a sudden it just goes woof. And the whole thing was back in flames, and then the fire trucks came, and they took a while to get the darn thing out. Like it was pretty crazy.
Once they get going, it's pretty wild. We had a buddy that lost one up in northern Maine, and once they get going, he couldn't stop it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's
once the fuel lines go and it just keeps dumping fuel out, that's it. It's over.
The plastic, the manganese on them, you ain't gonna get that out.
Yeah. And
all the foam, like all these new skidoos are all packed with that sound dampening stuff too. That is kindling. Like that's
the adhesive, the glue. Yeah, it ain't.
Oh yeah, like it's.
But I know a guy that had a run-in with some fire this summer, and I'm telling you, you don't want to mess with it. It's like
running. Who was that again?
Yeah,
who was that again?
I think it was me. You can't, Jamie. You can't outrun fire.
No, it's fast. It's surprising how fast it can be.
Yeah, but you can. So this is I had the 2018 out, and then that's my buddy Dino on his brand new MX ZX 2025. Loves that Raz RX front end and the skis. He just absolutely loves them. And then we're out with the other buddy has a Mach Z or Mach Z, however you want to say it. And away we go. So we had quite a bit of blast.
It's a good looking sled. Is it for sale?
Yeah.
I think I might want that one.
We're all miled out. And I threw this in there because somebody had posted online about how great their Woody studs were, and half the studs were bent in the photo. I think even Corey commented on the photo. Someone, maybe it was Denon or Corey. And this I shot a picture of because this track's actually a season and a bit we've run it. and those studs all
4,000K, 5,000K.
yeah, they're all perfectly straight, and they
That's
look
pretty
like
impressive.
new, and we ride them beyond manufacturer specifications. Just ask.
Well, remember I tested how well the fast track studs can cut through a frozen log on the side of a trail.
Yeah, that's
Making some
right.
kindling. Yeah,
That's right. And then I went out again on Saturday. I was kind of bummed, and no one wanted to ride. And Brad Bender, who had the 900R, he actually that day he was smiling in that photo because he really wanted a new sled. The guy's sled that burnt down, and by the time I got home from riding, my phone went off, and he had texted me a video saying his wife's not happy, but he was. He stopped at the dealer on the way home and had a brand new one all ready to go, PDI'd and ready to go. And he loaded it in his trailer, and he had a brand new sled in the garage at 5 p.m. that day.
But you know what?
Why do you even tell her?
Yeah,
I know.
no, but you gotta give it to him though. Like, he has the worst luck of any snowmobile I've ever met. Everything that happened to him in Quebec last year, and remember that sled was also acting weird too. It was not right last year at all. It was
leaking a little fuel somewhere.
Well, electrical, but what doesn't like, what can spark and what does fuel not like?
Yeah, so, like I don't know, like
sled had gremlins basically though.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He had trouble with his truck on the way up too, so that was a very costly trip last year. So I said to him Saturday, we're going to break the curse, and then he ended up not wanting to go Saturday, and I was like, I really want to go, and I just hate riding by myself. And then this is our buddy Paul. He's a longtime MUDBRATS fan. Back when I was just starting out, and a friend of Dino's, and he watches every video and podcast faithfully, and just a great guy. That's a 900 Ace, naturally aspirated, and he's got a clutch kit on it, I believe, and things whisper quiet and just keeps going like the Energizer Bunny. So he and I went up to Elmira, and we had a good rip around the trails and stopped to take a picture on this bridge, and all in all,
you're using the signals right, eh?
Yeah, and I gotta hand it to Corey Brock. He busted me in the one reel I put out, and he said, "Oh, your signal light is white."
Oh man,
but yeah. So I did try and use.
Did you include a picture of my carbides in here?
No, I didn't. We'll show those. I'll show them next week.
Okay.
I will.
You changed them though for Saturday, right?
I did, yeah.
Isn't that the best handling sled you've ever ridden?
It is. I've got one more tweak. I got one more tweak I want to do with it. So
don't you be touching that sled. No.
Yeah, but I want to try it on a groom trail first before I mess with it. But it's great. And those quality pieces tracks are awesome. So Corey Brock was out Saturday too. He invited me to go along, and I was like, I just didn't want to get up that far, and him and Shannon had a great relaxing weekend from what he's told me this morning. He says, "Hey, Gary, here's a few pics of Shannon and I recent ride around Barrie, Aurelia, Midland area this past weekend. Although it's the busiest trails he's ever seen, it's still better than sitting on the couch." He gives me a cheer. So they sounded like they had an awesome time. He said today that they stopped and visited a buddy's ice hut, ice fishing, and they stopped and hung out with a bunch of people from the camp that they cottage and trailer at. And and I said, that sounds like a friggin' great relaxing weekend, right? And there he is showing off the wrap and having a good time out on the trails. But and then Massar, he sent me pictures. He says another great weekend in the UP. He had to show the bra tree and Gary's wrap job. So there must be a bra tree. Yeah, I did that wrap for him. He likes the Lexan hoods. So I took the B off the Lexan hoods and created a new wrap that's, got some modern flair and matches his machine, right?
Yeah. That guy's got one good look.
Looks real good.
And I did the oxygen helmet too to match it, right?
O2 wraps. Get him at motorsjungle.ca.
Yeah. So his helmet I did last year, and then he asked me about doing the hood to match the Lexan hood, and I went, yeah. and I made it match the helmet, same graphics, and it looks really good. So
I got a jet boat you could wrap like that. I'll drop
I
it
know,
off.
we've got pictures. I'll gladly do that. Bring her by. I need it for the summer though.
You have to fit. You break it, you fix it.
These wraps. Yeah, I've already got one I'm working on right now. You know.
Dad, you're caught. Motorsport channel. How's that?
I know. I got it. Hey, I was gonna send him something today, but we'll. It's being worked on there, Mike. I got a couple in the works right now. So
you got a lot on your plate, wrap wise, right now.
Yeah, for sure. And then this is another shot. He said the planned or I think they planned that. There must be
no. What's wrong with this picture? The other guy's got hair. Isn't that what they're talking about?
There must have been a sale at seminars, or maybe you got them for free. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man, I love that link so much. Man.
You might get
great looking sleds. What a crew.
Yeah.
There's
this is Chris Watson. He sent pictures in. He's still waiting for his trails to open. He said Quebec is open for business. However, our little neck of the woods still requires a bit more snow since we're located right in the mountains.
Yeah, so I was looking at FCMQ last night, just curious, because like the next weekend is basically 2 weekends from now would have been the free weekend. But I'm like, I wonder what's open. Pretty much everything is there, other than like if you go like Mount Laurier north, it's all there, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's what
even lakes and stuff. So they must have had a good start. Yeah,
Dino and Paul and all the boys are there right now. Actually, they asked me to go, but it's not there, not Laurier, but they're in Quebec sledding, making a good run of it. And Chris even says he's practiced loading his sled on the trailer as well. We're going to get to that picture. There's a dog, looks like kind of a good sled dog for you, Jonathan, on that front.
Yeah.
Right beside you.
For sure.
Yeah. Chris said earlier, he said his dog likes minus 30 weather.
107-pound husky.
It's 107-pound husky.
I think that's what he put. Hold on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's good.
That's a lap dog, right? Or at least a lap dog at heart.
Yeah.
Man,
what's the difference between your dogs and huskies? Like traditionally, people think huskies are sled dogs.
Yeah. So Siberian Huskies are basically what my dogs are. What Siberian Huskies used to be before the show dog breeders and the pet breeders got a hold of them.
Is that right?
The show dog breeders, they breed for looks instead of performance, and they lose some performance oftentimes.
Yeah. Well, I will say we're into your pictures now. I will say when you see the pictures, I do have some questions and comments on them when we get to that. So remind me about the dogs, but I'm sure they're going to come to it. So this is a Centennial. Is it SEPPALA or SEPPALA? How do you pronounce it?
Just you can call it whatever you want. Just don't call us late for dinner. SEPPALA or SEPPALA, either one works.
And tell me a bit about the expedition.
Yeah, so in 1925, January 27th, 1925, 100 years ago, there was an outbreak of diphtheria in Nome, Alaska, that was killing the children of Nome. And there was no way to get the antitoxin, to get the serum to the children of Nome other than by dog team. And so the Disney movies Balto and the Disney movie Togo are all commemorative movies commemorating this dog sled run across 750 miles of the low Arctic to save the children of Nome from an outbreak of diphtheria. So what we're doing is on the exact 100-year anniversary, and they did it minus 65 degree temperatures over 750 miles, is I'm mushing the registered purebred descendants of the very same dogs across the entirety of that 750 miles with the support team of these of Jamie and his friend Jeff on their snow machines.
That's wild. Now, when you say they're actually descendants, have you been training with these dogs?
Yeah, so I've been breeding these SEPPALA Siberian sled dogs for 25 years, and they came to Maine 2 years after the serum run. So the serum run to save the children of Nome was in 1925, and then in 1927, Leonard SEPPALA brought his team here to Maine, and I've been breeding them here for the last 25 years.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
And this is a great shot. Where is this taken?
Yeah, so that's Moosehead Lake. It's the largest freshwater lake in Maine. It's 40 plus miles from tip to tip, and that's where Mount Kineo is, although you can't see it in that shot. And it's a great snowmobile destination too. Greenville, Maine. It's kind of the southern boundary of the North Maine woods. So a lot of people coming up from southern New England with their snow machines will come to Greenville, hop on this Moosehead Lake, and then head north. This was my last day because I was heading south. So it was a 7-day expedition solo. And this was my last day doing this 40 miles across Moosehead Lake.
What do you put on the sleigh?
Well, so in this expedition, I was self-sustained. So you're hauling your food, your sleeping bags, your tent, the dog's food, all of the accoutrements that you're going to need to take care of the team.
Yeah, and this is Mike is asking a great question, because there's my next question was kind of related to this. How do the snowmobiles work alongside these guys? And Mike asks, if the snowmobile would ride right by you, how would the dogs react? Would they freak out, or would they just chase the thing, or would they just kind of ignore it?
So it depends on how the snowmobile drives by. And since I've got a captive snowmobile audience here, you don't have to stop when you see a dog sled team. In fact, we want to train our dogs to be able to pass snow machines, just like an Amish horse would, pass a car. And generally, that's what we want. But we do ask, that you do slow down and don't fly by them 6 inches away at 80 miles an hour, because that scares them. And then they'll jump off the trail or get tangled up or, try and get away. But if you're coming by, 15, 20 miles an hour and you just zip by, wave at us, we're going to wave back and the dogs are going to be fine. That's
good. Yeah. Have some respect and no one skiing it by you kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love these pictures showing the interaction of the dogs. How are they actually connected to this, to the lines connected to the sleigh?
Yeah, so there's two different ways. The Inuit in northern Canada, one of their favorite methods is called the fan hitch, where each dog is connected to the front of the sled by its own line. That's pretty traditional for the high Arctic, but in the low Arctic and everywhere else, we used a method that was developed by Russian trappers in Siberia, and it's called a tandem hitch. And it's one gang line that goes all the way down, and then each dog has a tug line off of that main line.
Right on. And are they quick release? Like if they do get tangled, is it like a carabiner or?
So they are brass snaps, and they do freeze up. And and the dogs sometimes, if they've got the Hershey squirts, if they've got diarrhea, those brass snaps will be, frozen into a block of diarrhea. And, I've probably had a gazillion dog related viruses in my body because I'm, holding it in my hand and blowing on them, to get them to work again, times however many dogs are on my team. But you do what you got to do.
No, don't romanticize the sport, all right, Jonathan? There's no need to make it sound. There's no need to glamorize it. You
asked me what the technical term was at the beginning of this interview, and I was going to tell you it's chief poop scooper. That's pretty much it.
You're not supposed to suck on the actual clips to actually unfreeze them.
Oh, look,
it's like plumbing. It's like plumbing.
I hate doing this so much. And he's just over there.
I heave those gloves when I'm done with them. Jonathan takes them home.
Reuses them.
No, I actually put them on my dashboard, and the defrost just marinates them.
Yeah, that's right.
Refreshes them, and he refreezes them again.
Do you wear any kind of headgear while you're dog sledding? Just Me John asks, like a helmet.
Yeah, so sprint racers and other people who are just more careful than I am. Sprint racers who are traveling 20, 25 miles an hour sliding around in the woods, they often do. Most distance mushers do not. There are some places that are notorious in Alaska, like the Dalzell Gorge, Rainy Pass, where you're literally just smacking off of boulders. And in those places, in those races, just for those sections, a lot of even the hardcore mushers will pull out a helmet and put it on, because you're slamming up against some rocks coming down and through ravines, and it can be pretty dangerous. But for the most part, we don't. I mean, we probably should, but we don't. Just ask Jamie; he'll tell you. He sounds like Jamie's your crash test dummy.
Yeah, I still have a few things up in my day.
Yeah. This has kind of been asked, but not really. What's the lineup of your dogs? They each have a favorite partner. That's a little different spin on it, but
yeah.
Yeah, they actually they do. They have preferences. My lead dog that you just showed in that picture that I was harnessing, he's blind in one eye, and and his name's Druid. He's my leader. He likes to run next to dogs that he trusts, so that he can just kind of lean up against them on his blind side and not have to worry what's going on that side of him. And some of the males got girls that they got crushes on, and you've got some females that are really alpha females that want to put down all the other females in the team. So there's a lot of dynamics like that. Yeah, that's awesome. I got 3 more questions. I'm going to wait though, but looking at this picture, Outdoor Hobby Guy says the shipping address, Jamie, is wrong on that photo.
We got to get you some CNAs.
That's Steve just being a clown. So talk to me about these 2 bad boys.
So the green one there, I picked that up last year, which was a big step because I'm used to my 850. You run it around like it's a dirt bike. But working with Jonathan and Perrin, we got to be able to pull some weight. But I still had to have some fun, so we couldn't just go for the 900. Let's go for the Turbo R and really get to step on out there when we want to. So I got this one out of Profile Motorsports last year, and then what Jonathan has added to the expedition here in such a way that we needed a second sled to be able to pull the amount of weight. So we went out and picked up the Scandic on over here too. That's just a regular 900 Ace 2, but with the high-low transmissions, the 24-inch wide tracks, like we're really looking forward to putting these to work. So, but when we get home, that Turbo R is a good one to step out and run. Just doesn't like to go through them corners when you're chasing your buddy.
Yeah, you need some go fast parts on it, I think. So this is pretty cool.
Do that. And I actually had that discussion tonight with Ken Bushy, but I need that thing to stay together while I'm out in Alaska. Yeah. So we'll mess with it when it gets back.
So it looks like Amy could just sit back and have a relaxing spa day on the back of that thing.
Oh no, you do not get on a sled with him. You do not ride with him. So I ride old snowmobiles because that's what I like. And the first thing he did was put me on the back of that and stand it up on end. And probably dump me off and run me over. You don't ride with him.
As we're tipping on the side of Jonathan's trail too, going up to his land, like you got to lean with it and goose it. And she's bailed off in the snow, but that's normal.
I drive myself. I drive.
That's cool.
So she actually prefers this Turbo R.
I like that one.
She got right into that. That's a comfy ride. I put her on that Mach Z 850, and she's just not into that.
I don't like the 850.
Brappers TV, he says that's what I call a honey hauler, is what he said about your sled there, Jamie.
The other thing is she wants to drive. Like, she's not out back at 40 miles an hour. You're running out ahead, and you look behind you thinking you're putting on some pace, and she's right there.
Yeah.
I've been riding
cool.
since I was this tall.
Now you've got some serious LEDs on there. How much night riding do you guys do with the dog team support?
So most of the mushing is at night based on the time schedule, because Jonathan's got a 9 to 5. So you're out at night. The addition of these lights here is for when we go out and run those rivers, the Nenana and the Yukon. We need to be able to see what's on up ahead, because the last thing I want to find is that black hole of water. We just need to know what's up in front of us. And as we know, it's a battle with those Gen 4 style headlights.
So you're kind of like Smoking the Bandit, where you're going ahead and looking out for all the hazards and
constantly being chased.
That's cool. That's very cool.
And I'll just add to that during this expedition, we're going to be on this trail for 10, 12 hours a day. And, there's 6.5 hours of daylight, in the low Arctic at this time of year.
And it's not a bright daylight either. It's kind of like a Stephen King novel for a little bit of it. You just see the sun over the horizon. So it's not as light as we would think it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So this here, I'm building a sled deck. My Dodge has got a service body in it, and we're carrying so much stuff that I've run out of room in the 32-foot trailer. So we started building a sled deck so I could put that over the top of the service body and carry either 2 sleds or 2 of the coffins you'll see here in a minute right on the back of the truck on the way on out there. So I gave up on the TIG welding though. My buddy shows up, goes, "What are you doing? We'll be here all day." So the spool gun came out after this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Corey Brock said you need some B2 Stinger LED headlights in those Gen 4s.
Send them on down. Go back to that CNA Broski's, the address.
Listen, well, that's saying I'll send you a
I've
link.
tried some beam techs before and had some mixed results. It was always that line.
B2 Stingers are like daylight just on their own. We just got our hands on one of the auxiliary headlights for the Gen 4.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I've not had a need for it with the B2s. It is stupid bright. And then I run all that company's products in my car as well. And it's like blinding all of their lights.
And they'll fit on all right on.
Oh yeah. No, it's the bulbs.
Oh, yeah,
it replaces the stock halogens.
Headlights.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're brighter than they won't be as bright as your big spotlights, but I guarantee you're going to lose all of that like darkness from the yellow halogen.
Yeah, we'll chat after the show. Well, that's actually a video of him working away there.
Yeah.
So this is this is
me deep in thought, and everyone else trying to understand what the heck it is I want them to do. So this is my buddy Saston in the green, and this is Jeff Kelly. He'll be running the Scandic. He'll be on out with us. Jeff's aerial welding services, climbs cell phone towers, radio towers, certified welder, certified to inspect and pass your welds. Real talented individual. The only thing we're going to have to worry about Jeff on this trip, he's going to be standing outside the tent in his underwear at -40 and complaining it's too hot in there. So,
which one's Jeff with the green shirt?
Jeff's the guy with the skill saw in his hand, getting ready to cut something.
Oh yeah, right on, perfect. And then here he is.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. I was going to say, because if it was a guy in the green shirt, you guys could be like ZZ Top out there.
Sasson, since that kid's been 18 years old, he's been bald and a beard like that. So it was great when you needed beer because he looked like he was a member of ZZ Top at 18. So, and then Sasson's really talented. He actually, he's a heavy haul truck driver. He moves big 100-ton cranes, 200-ton cranes, breaks them down. So real talented guy there to have on your side when you need something moved that shouldn't be.
And then this is what you're making here.
Yeah. So, and
Coffins.
Yeah, when I get ready to pass on, or if I don't make it back, I mean, you'd spare me in one of them. So,
I will.
So we looked at some different sleds, some Siglins, some Alaskan freight sleds, all out of UHMW, and we wanted something enclosed. I also wanted something for us when we got out there. If we weren't with any of the other group, if we got to run ahead, we got something to climb into. That's some shelter real quick. So,
like for bears and stuff.
If you get stranded out there.
Yeah.
So you could crawl in. If I run into a bear out there, I'm going to be grabbing every bit of ammo I got on me. I'm not questioning and getting in and hiding.
No.
So we're going to be using this. We got a lot of raw meat, a lot of kibble we got to haul. We're going to be camping out there on these trails because they ran from roadhouse to roadhouse when they did this expedition. So just like we have rest stops back in the day along these rivers, they had these roadhouses, these cabins. So with the snowmobiles and these freight sleds that we built here, we'll be using them as Jonathan's roadhouse. We'll be hauling his supplies, our camping gear. We'll be hauling straw for the dogs to bed them down at night. anything we really need, because we'll be pulling into villages, but we're going to be doing this unsupported camping out there along the Yukon, the Nenana, as much as possible. So,
and then on the Bering Sea.
Yeah, we'll be running the coast on the Bering Sea through the Norton Sound, but again, that's all on ice, and based on the knowledge and advice we get from the locals in these villages. Jeff Erickson will be feeding us a lot of that. Do we win money? No,
I wish.
We just get broker by the day.
Yeah. So just going back on that, I think this is a great question, because we've had people that have been on the show, as you know, Jamie, that are competing and they're racing against each other and that kind of thing. And this isn't a race. This is more of a.
This is a tribute to history of bygones before it gets lost. And John, there's 110 SEPPALAs left.
Yeah, there's right at 100 SEPPALAs left in the world 100 years after they saved the children of Nome. And so this is a true expedition. Like Jamie just pointed out, every 35, 40 miles, they had roadhouses to go into and get warm 100 years ago. Those roadhouses don't exist anymore. So in a lot of ways, we're going to be roughing it in ways they didn't have to. And most of them in the relay, they would run a day and then they'd hand off the serum to the next musher. We're doing the entire route, the whole way.
No, and that's the thing I wanted to say when you bring that up. You have to think about how things have changed, or have they changed from in 100 years on this route? Like, is there modern hotels and conveniences along the way, or is it still very remote?
It's actually more remote now than it was then, because then you had mail carriers that were running these sections of trail every day, and they had these roadhouses there where you could pull up, get a nice meal, warm up at the fire every night. Those things don't exist anymore because planes have made it to where, you skip over all of that and you just fly into the villages you need to get to.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't think about it. Like when you mentioned about the roadhouses, I was thinking, well, couldn't you just set up with the Holiday Inn or something that you could have stayed out, or
about a weekend we'll be craving for one.
Yeah. I love this shot, man. This says it all.
Yeah, the locals on the Yukon River are telling us we're crazy, because they're saying that until the end of February, they're not even traveling between villages at this time of year on the Yukon. So
yeah, we've been advised to wait until March to do this.
And you said, no, it's got to be this, because
it's got to be on January 27th. We have to roll out of Nenana.
Yeah.
You're going to pay tribute to something. You got to do it.
Matthew Barker's commenting on the last photo, saying those will protect gear, supplies, and people in a pinch. Probably not easy to keep warm in it, but it would be safe. Bears, storms, wind is wild up there.
So I've actually put some insulation inside of them. So we got some pink foam board in on the bottom. So there's a little bit of warmth in it. We'll have so much gear with us. In the Anorax from High Adventure Gear, Glacier Wear has provided us with some mitts. We got a lot of good products. So the biggest thing is getting that wind off us. And if one of us got stranded outbreaking trail ahead of somebody else, we got a place to jump in.
Yeah, right on. So and here's this is Jonathan. It is Jonathan, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
So you've got a bunch of lead there and harnesses.
Yeah, that's just I had just taken that photographer out for a run. He does a lot of work for some big magazines in the nation. His name was Jason Frank. And so I had just taken him out on a dog sled run, and I was putting the gear away, and he just snapped that shot.
That's great. Yeah, your photography is amazing. Like, except this guy, they could have blurred him and got the dogs in clear. I don't know.
This might have been an iPhone selfie of some sort. Maybe I was trying to get on Instagram.
Now, Jamie, this goes into Justin Nichols' question from a while ago. He said, which do you prefer, sled dogs or snowmobiles?
So to reflect on what Jonathan was talking about earlier, I'll be a snowmobiler at heart. I love riding the North Woods. I love covering that distance. And then the social aspect of it, when you go up to people's camps and you run from camp to camp, or you go with your boys on that 1,000-mile backpack trip and we run into Presque Isle and hang out, you know, the restaurant at night. Like, there's that. But the dog mushing puts another spin on that winter sport where you just kind of relax and check out from all the world's problems, because you're forced to pay attention to those dogs, and it's quiet and peaceful. I mean, not to sound wimpy, but it's kind of like a little meditation a little bit.
Yeah. Probably clears your mind as much as you have to go into it with a clear mind.
And those damn things ain't going to drop a piston.
No, that's right. Well, you hope not.
Yeah, we hope.
They drop a lot that's not piston. It's more.
I can carry one of them out of
pooping. There's no piston that's pooping. They drop. Rappers TV says, he asks, have you ever had a mechanical failure where a dog took off on you?
Yeah. I've had dogs, break gang lines and take off. I've actually one funny story. My snow hook on a training run dumped out of my sled and caught onto a root and snapped my gang line. And so 6 dogs took off down the lake. And here I am running down the lake, and the lake out here is 20 miles long. And I'm running down the lake, and I see my team getting smaller and smaller in the distance. And they find the snowmobile track into a cove, and they turn around, and they start coming back toward me. And I'm like, man, this is my chance. But this ain't my first rodeo, and I know what they're going to do. I know they're going to come by me at 100 miles an hour because they don't want to get caught. So they're coming back toward me, and I decide I'm going to jump when the lead dogs come by, and I'll grab a hold of the gang line somewhere with the 8 dogs. And so I get a hold of them, wrap my arms through the gang line because there's no sled now, and I'm trying to walk these dogs back to my house, and I can't because they want to pull. So finally, I just give up, and I sit down on my butt, holding on to this gang line, and they're pulling me across the lake on my butt. And I literally, this is no exaggeration, I literally broke my tailbone that day, just sliding across the lake on my butt while these dogs were dragging me home.
And again, how is this better than snowmobiling?
You're not doing a good job.
It's a lot of work, but just like our sleds, when they're going good, it's good.
Yeah. I don't know. The guy sled on fire on Tuesday wasn't that bad. He didn't break a rattle bone.
Dad, did you hear about Gaetano?
Yeah, I did.
His freaking 850 blew up again.
I know, it's sad. Hey, watch Mike's video. It's a great video too.
All right. I haven't had the time to. I was a little busy today.
It's going to make you sad though, because how awesome that Mike's sled's running like a beast. It's just a machine. Anyway, David Brennan says, do you wear real fur when it gets really cold? Can you talk to us about the gear you're going to be wearing?
So absolutely. Our High Adventure Gear did us up some anoraks that John can elaborate on here, and they're wrapped in wolf and Wolverine fur.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You cannot, there has not yet been man-made fabric that can replicate what fur does. And the reason why it's not cosmetic, the reason why we have these fur ruffs around our hoods is it creates a wind stop. So you have this dead air in front of your face. So if the wind chills 40, 50 miles an hour as you're going down the trail, that wind just comes to where that fur tunnel is in front of your face, and the wind just stops. So the wind's not hitting your face at all. And only fur can do that. And it's, it's worth its weight in gold. And there's a reason why all the successful polar explorers over the last 100 years were successful by adopting native techniques and clothing. Nothing beats fur.
And do you wear bunny boots, or what do you put on your
fur? So it'll shut all the water right off, wool liner inside.
Oh, here, let me
get cold in this, we're in trouble.
Oh, hold on a second. I wanted to see if I could put that
zoom right up in on them.
Put you here, and then I'll go like this. Boom.
There we go. So this is Glacier Wear right out of Greenville, which is local to us, and great product. And in Alaska, this is what I'll be running. So we'll be nice and warm and toasty. Nothing will replace these.
Mm-hmm.
And what about your feet? Like, people have been on here and they say bunny boots can't be beat, the military boots. What do you think, Jamie?
So the bunny boots or a good Baffin The biggest thing with the boots, just like snowmobiling, if you're messing around with laces and anything that can allow water to get on in, is your biggest problem. So yeah, a bunny boot that will go all the way up, or like Baffin has provided some great boots that will come up. You just basically got to keep those feet dry, like a bunny or a Baffin would.
Yeah, right on.
But you got to be, the biggest thing with all this, and we know it from snowmobiling, is you got to stay dry. So any product you use has got to be able to wick some moisture while keeping it out, because you got to keep that moisture off your body.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like you don't want to sweat when you're digging that sled out. You want to shed some layers.
That's it.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Who's this beautiful beard?
So that's my buddy Jeremy Grant. He's a videographer that did my last the documentary on my last expedition. Actually, if you guys watch Mr. Beast, I know you guys are YouTubers, the new Mr. Beast, the Beast games that he just came out with just this month, my buddy here, Jeremy Grant, made it to I don't know, I'm on episode 5 right now, and he's still in the game show.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and he was out with me in the last expedition, and he's been out into the Allagash wilderness with Jamie and I doing dog sled trips last year.
Yeah, we took him up to Escort last year. That was a good trip.
Very cool. Very cool. And here's a nice painting.
Yeah, so that's the official Iditarod artist for the last 50 years, John Van Zyl. He's a famous painter. And over on the right there is 1925 Leonard Seppala and Togo. And on the left is me and my lead dog, Frost.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
what an honor. What an honor.
Yeah, it was a huge honor when he emailed me and told me he wanted to do this painting as a fundraiser for our expedition. I was blown away. And then he sent me this. They sell for like the original sell for like $3,000. And he sent me this original painting. And it's going to be an heirloom for my family, for my kids.
That's cool. There's about 60 guys screen capturing this shot, and they're going to have it on Marketplace for $60. Hey, John, All Terrain TV asked, do you train the dogs to stop running if they sense they aren't pulling the sled? I know you answered this, but answer it again.
Yeah, the reason why rule number 1 of mushing is don't let go of the sled is for the dog's safety, because they will not stop, and they will go through intersections, they'll cross roads, they will just keep going and going and going until they get wrapped around a tree, until they get taken out by a semi-tractor trailer. So when we say don't let go of the sled, it's for the dog's safety, not for yours, because they live to run, and once you're off there, they're just going to keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
These are our kids here. They got these Christmas Day back in 2020, and we might have made a mistake. There was 2 feet of snow a few days before, and we got a couple inches of rain, and we lost every bit of it.
Oh,
but the boy here was looking outside, and he couldn't quite figure out what was underneath the tarp and the snowmobile. But when he finally figured it out, I'm going to bleep this, but to hear that little boy go, holy beeping cow, we got a beeping matching MXZs. Holy beeping.
That's awesome.
Only time he's sworn in his life.
Right.
That boy just became a man.
Ralphie on A Christmas Carol. And
Yeah. That boy became a man that day.
He did.
Yeah.
And if it weren't Christmas, he probably wouldn't have been a man much longer.
I'd have killed him.
And he told you that's the first time he swore. He also told you he hasn't had a shot of whiskey yet either.
So, but these 2 kids rode the heck out of these sleds. So
that's awesome. We'll ask. I'm just starring a bunch of questions here, Drew. So
Yeah.
Were those mitts otter fur?
So they're beaver fur. So they got wool line, but there's beaver on the outside. So beaver's superior to what a lot of the Alaskans use.
Yeah.
I like Chris's question there, Dad. Is there a harness set up to keep you on the sled? Similar to a tether on a skidoo, he says. Obviously referring
this
to the
is
dog's
Jonathan's
sled.
question, not mine.
Yeah.
But I should.
Yeah. So no, I mean, you shouldn't tie yourself off to a sled, because you'll end up getting busted up pretty hard. Because like I said, if the sled tips, you're not enough weight to stop a full dog sled team. So they'll just keep running and dragging you and slamming you into trees. And so you don't want to tie yourself off to a sled. I know a couple very small female mushers that do, just because, it takes a little bit more, upper body strength. And so they tie themselves off, but it can be a recipe for disaster if you're not careful.
That's when you're bouncing along the ground, dragging, you'd be phoning Jamie going,
how do you stop this thing?
This is when it's handy to have that snowmobile out in front, watching other sleds.
Well,
Dad,
is that part of it?
Dad, like that time I got my foot caught in the GT Snow Racer when you're pulling it behind the quad.
Yeah, exactly. Drag you for a bit. That's exactly the time. I'm just trying to think out loud here. You probably don't want a dog sled by yourself. You want to make sure that someone's there to support you.
We'll run a snowmobile up on a head.
Pardon me?
We'll run a snowmobile up on a head for support, to be courteous, to allow oncoming traffic to know that, Jonathan's out mushing or I am or whatnot. So yeah, it is safer to go with somebody on with you.
It's definitely safer, but it's a luxury. I mean, I'll tell you, there's times that, you just don't have it. I mean, I've gone years without even owning a snowmobile, much less having someone spot for me. And I can't tell you how many times that, when you've got 14 dogs in front of you and they're spaced, 4 feet between each, pairing of dogs, and you're coming up on a road intersection, you turn your headlamp off and you're looking up into the trees to see if there's any headlights coming in any direction. And you just give them the command to go and pray. And I can't tell you how many times it's not wise and it's not the best thing to do, but when you're training dogs, you have to be consistent with their training. You have to be out on a regular basis. And, having those spotters there, it's a luxury that, some people have. And, I've gone many, many years without it. It sure is nice to have when you can have it.
Yeah, that's wild. How often does it happen when people fall off the sled? We're talking dog sled, not Jamie's snowmobile.
Depends on how late in the day it is.
Yeah.
How many drinks they've had?
It's got to
one crash every day.
You must have to be in good shape. You must work out and train for this as much as the dogs.
So I work out in the summer. I work out really hard because that's my time to try and get myself fit for what I have to do with the dogs. Most mushers will tell you that once you start training the dogs, if you have a day job and you're training the dogs, it's all about the dogs. I mean, you don't have time to do anything else. I mean, you'll try and get a few hours sleep in here and there, but you come home from work, you train the dogs, you come home and you go to bed. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty wild. And then training dogs, here they are training sleds. The dogs don't take this much work. We should have had a score, like 1 for dogs, 1 for sleds, and tally them up at the end of the photo.
We can't leave anything alone. That thing come home and got tore right apart. So,
yeah.
We know
how many pounds is that winch on the front of it?
So those are 2,500 pound Warrens on the front. So we got a good buddy, Jeff. He owns a machine shop here in town, Engine Works. He hooked us up with those 2 Warren winches for the front of each unit. Really appreciate that from him. So
cool.
Those will go front and back. I'll be able to side pull with them. I got a little rig set up, and they're all on quick disconnect electrical. So I can just swap them right around, do whatever we got to do with them.
That's pretty
hoping
cool.
not to need it.
Yeah. Matthew Barker says what looked like alcohol and recreational drug abuse to the untrained eye was in fact a form of strength conditioning. Oh my God.
Well said.
Yeah. No, going back to this, there's no money, there's no prize at the end of there's no prize at the end of the day. What's in it for you guys? What is it? What is in it for you?
So for me, at the end of the day, when you go riding with your buddies and you're reflecting back, so when you're at lodge sessions with all those guys hanging around and you're reflecting and just enjoying everything, That's what we're going to get out of this.
Having a few
Yeah.
teas.
Except my buddies could chime in here. They'd say I'm not allowed that because after 2 of them, I need a box of raisins and a nut-night.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, so there's a couple of things. I mean, this has been the last 20 since I got out of the Marine Corps 25 years ago. This has been, my life's work is preserving this breed, seeing them, now as the president of the breed club, just seeing, what few there are left across this 100-year mile marker in their history, and showing that they could still do, what they were bred to do 100 years ago, and commemorating that. And then, I'll, wax a little bit philosophical here, and I'll say, for as long as humans have been humans, we've been, our hands have been in the soil, and we've been working with animals, and just in the last 100 years, that's all ended, and we live in a very mechanical age. But there's some of us who still feel like, those relationships with working animals, whether it's draft horses or falconry or sled dogs or hunting dogs, that those relationships are still worth preserving. And then finally, I mean, I heard my grandfather tell me crazy stories about my great-great-grandfather, who was a Civil War hero. And I just want my grandkids to be able to tell really cool stories about their crazy grandfather to their grandkids,
Right on.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned about the winches were sent up. I seen the CNA Pro ski boxes. Are these donated items? Are you looking for sponsors, donations? Do you take financial support from people?
Obviously, anything that anyone could do to help would be amazing. CNA Pro Skis, Allison out there, she stepped up, went back and forth with a couple emails, and they were right on par with this. Because as we all know, when they produce a ski for these snowmobiles, they're trying to tailor to 10 different styles of riding here. So it's like that Turbo R. I'm going to go out and try to step it through a corner and run the trail, and I'm going to step off trail. So for what we're going to do, CNA stepped up here with their skis, and we're hoping for some better flotation with them. They'll be stronger in the cold. It's really going to be a good product to work with us. As far as, more sponsors with the snowmobiles, Profile Motorsports up in North Conway stepped up and giving us some really deep discounts on some things. Jeff at Engine Works helped us out immensely. But yeah, a lot of this is out of our own pockets, but anything anybody would be willing to do would be much appreciated.
And how do they get in touch with you? Like, do you have a Facebook page or a website? You want to show
the easiest person to find is Jonathan on Facebook.
Yeah, so I'd say for Snow Machines, I'll get you right in touch with Jamie. I mean, and anything that any sponsors want, their stuff to be featured. We've got a videographer that's coming with us that's planning on making a documentary about this expedition. So, it's a good opportunity to get your gear in on a film and say, hey, there's our equipment being put to the test. And then, of course, on the dog sled side, we've got some really great sponsors: Native Dog Food, the Continental Kennel Club. We've got Poland Spring Water just came on, and Poland Spring Resort. But we're at crunch time. This expedition, the total ticket, and like Jamie said, he's out of his pocket. He's spent a lot of money on this expedition. But the budget for this expedition originally, before these sleds were bought, was $85,000. And, we've been between paying for stuff ourselves and sponsors, we've gotten that down to, just about a deficit of about $6,000 or $7,000 at this point.
Wow, that's great. You're getting there, right? Yeah.
And that's on the sled dog end of it. So
yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. The snowmobile end of it's a whole nother deal. So anything anybody wanted to do would be grateful. And even any suggestions anybody's got for us, like, hey, you ought to have this piece of gear. You really ought to look at this glove. You really ought to have these down pants. If anybody's even gotten these suggestions, that'd be much grateful. The only thing running through our list that I have dropped the ball on this is I need to get some sled covers rounded up this week. Just because when we're out there, we run into -40, -50. I got to keep, when we park these sleds at night and go into camp, I can't come out and have them covered up in ice. I can't have the snow blowing up in the holes. As it is being 4 strokes, I'm probably going to pop the batteries out of them and sleep with them. I'm probably going to go out and roll that clutch over in the morning. And that first initial start, if I'm worried about it, is going to be a rope on that clutch with that starter. So,
are you going to get the mechanical backups they sell for those sleds, though? They make a kit for them where you can just put like a pull start on the
even on the 4-stroke?
I think.
Oh, that's actually a good question.
How's your arm, buddy?
Yeah.
That thing
not for the 4. You're actually, you know what? You might be right. Maybe that kit is 2-stroke only.
It's 2-stroke only.
So it is only 2-stroke. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm a master with tying knots and ropes.
How amazing.
So we'll get something wrapped around and pulled. And you know what? If we don't make it, them dogs will drag us.
That's right.
And between the 2 sleds, so we're wiring up lights here because when we get to Nenana, we're going to be in darkness. So we built that channel up through the center, mounted some recessed lights up in there, and just wiring everything on up. So,
nice.
Yeah. Just getting some prep done.
Yeah, for sure.
And this was Jamie's first race. Jamie raced for the first time with a dog sled team just this last January.
Yeah, on up in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
A wilderness race up there. Good bunch of people.
How big of a circuit is it? Like, I imagine it's a pretty tight knit family. Like when you go to these races, it's just, you run into the same friends and foes every time you race, right?
Yeah, and you know, just like horse racing, harness racing, Amy will tell you because, you know, she services a lot of the harness racing people and stuff like that. Unfortunately, you know, there's a lot of competitive people out there, you know, in this tight knit niche community of, you know, people, and I'm sure it's probably the same in the racing circuit at snowmobiles as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's a good shot of the sled. Actually, it's kind of cool. Like, are these old or are they made new to look old?
But it's not made new to look old. It's just a traditional sled. So they do for sprint racing. They do make some aluminum sleds and some, you know, carbon sleds and that kind of thing for sprint racing. But by and large, these traditional ash sleds are, you know, the wood that is tied together instead of bolted together. It flexes.
Makes it, you can steer that sled. Mm-hmm. You can walk that handle over, you know, sometimes 6 inches. You're really getting after it.
Mm-hmm. And what does that do? Does it lean the skis or does it kind of twist everything?
Just like you tow a tire in at the racetrack.
Yeah,
you twist that baby a little bit, and she'll help walk around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
You can see the snowmobile track actually under my feet.
Yeah,
we'll drag that behind, slow them on up.
Oh, right on. Put some fast track studs in that. You can use it as a brake.
You know, that'd be helpful because that's the aluminum bar that's under the feet too. That's got snowmobile picks right in it.
Yeah, right. Is that what you call the brake? Is that when you say you're standing on the brake?
Right.
Yeah.
So you have what we call the bar brake there, and he's right. They've got those carbide snowmobile, studs.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the drag is the other thing. You know, it's basically a snowmobile track. The drag, you just stand on it when you just want to slow them down and don't want to stop them. So it's intentionally not as aggressive because you don't want it to grab a rock or grab a root. You just want it to dampen and slow the team down a little bit. Yeah,
right. I guess you could do 1 foot on it or both feet, depending on how much you want to scrub off, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. You'll step all your weight too off the one runner too to get going. So.
Yeah. How much weight can you put in that sled?
The sleds are remarkable, especially the traditional, you know, wooden sleds that are tied together because of the flex. It's remarkable how much weight that you can put in them. I mean, that's a heavy duty sled there that could probably handle easily 500-600 pounds easy. Yeah. Yeah.
Matthew Barker says, I'm impressed with the planning and all the work Ancestral Dogs doing what they love. Wish you all the luck.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. There, the kids finally got some snow to ride.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids are all right. And this is the local clubhouse down here in Naples. Good bunch of people.
You've sent this photo in before, right?
I've sent that photo in before. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites because this was a few years back when the kids were still little and wanted to hang out with me.
That was this. You sent this in just before Christmas, right? This year.
Yeah, it would have been before.
Yeah. You sent. That's the thing. I'm now connecting the pictures because I saw the one from earlier. I'm like, is there just another guy that gave his kids 2 440s? And it's nope. This connects.
Yeah, very cool.
Cool. Just us and there's Avery. Jeff Kelly.
Oh yeah,
going with us. This is my daughter way back in the day, who came on. So she used to bomb. I had her on this way too young, but she took right to it. So
everybody that gets a 120 gets them when the kids are way too young.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife just had a baby. I need to set up.
And the cool part was when she grew out of it, my neighbors took it on, so it was cool to still see it bombing around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So.
And I always hear from people that buy these 120s. It's either there's a window where it's like they're too young, and then it sounds like the very few next seasons are like, oh, they're too old.
They're too big. So you want you want to step up to 100.
You go up to like a Bravo or like a freestyle or something like that.
And I grew up on an Excel 3.
So, nice. Look at these units! Oh, baby,
this is my father-in-law, Andy.
Yeah,
he's got a thing for alpines.
And that's an STX formula on the very far left there.
It's an XT.
Yeah.
XT.
Yeah, it's a 583 XT. No, 570 XT. We bought it in 93 or 94.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Throwback. I mean, we can date that by the square body in the back.
I was just going to say, let's not discount that truck in the back. That's sweet, man.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a soft spot, and he's still got the.
Really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, we don't have the 84 Alpine, but he still has one of the Alpine 2s.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And he's a guy that could never sell nothing, so we got a big cleaning spree someday.
Perfect. Send one my way. That's awesome.
But
go ahead. What were you going to say about that picture?
I said he used to work. You can see the drag in the background. So this is what Nenana Wakefield, they used to work these and drag all the trails, and they were the snowmobile club back when this got going.
Yeah. That's all we had when I was a kid.
So that's why these were around. These were before the Tuckers and the Snowcats, and that's what they were using.
Very cool. So you've been around snowmobiling forever. I love the one.
Been around. I took a little hiatus for a while when we were doing some rock bouncing and things like that. We were running down south a bunch, but I got back into it when the kids got little. Probably 3 or 4 years. So we even did some ice racing back in the day. I had a crank shop done up Mach Z. That thing was a rocket. The mistake was I used to try to trail ride it too. You're running 196 chisel tooths and nobody wants to be around you. And you were carrying 5-gallon 5-gallon cans of gas before we had the link system. Like, because I couldn't make it to the next fuel stop, but I was the fastest one out there.
Yeah.
So
that
was that Mach Z was a real good going sled. I wish I still had that baby. That thing ripped.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many friends' visors did you have to replace after riding behind you with 196?
So they used to try to stick me in the back, and then we get to them straight stretches. I'm like, yeah, enough of this, because they were all on that mountain sled kick. I'd step right out, but I'd be running out of gas because that thing would drink. And just like a temperamental ice sled that you were trying to trail ride, I was young, you'd scuff a piston because you were running it right on that lean edge because you wanted every bit.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's how I got to know Jeff down to Engine Works. He straightened some cranks for me. We had some Wiseco pistons that liked to scuff. She went good when she went good. But there was a couple of times she rolled into Cocadjo with only 2 holes running.
Yeah, and they always run better just before they blow too. So, yeah.
We were leaving like a Friday night. Thursday night once, I pulled that thing out on Bonnie Eagle Pond to just dial it in a little bit. And she went really good that night, good crisp. It was probably -15 out. Yeah, other end of the lake at like $130, she lights out. But we had spare cranks and pistons, and the next day we put that baby back together, and she went north. We don't have that energy anymore. This was not too long ago, Jonathan.
Yeah. Jonathan. This picture is and there'd be more like it. But when you think about sled dogs, you think of these muscly, big, husky things, and the SEPPALA dogs are all little skinny. They look almost malnutritioned.
Think of it as a CrossFit guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
weightlifter.
And what's really funny is if you went to a race, my dogs are bigger than most racing dogs. Yeah.
Are you serious? See,
So-
it's just a I guess it's a stereotype that I have in my mind, right?
When you
ever see the weightlifter running a marathon?
Yeah.
No.
Think about what a marathon runner looks like. They have legs and arms like this, right?
Yeah.
It's all cutting, no bulking.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when they think of sled dogs, they think of these big 120-pound Alaskan Malamutes and Greenland dogs and Canadian Eskimo dogs. But you have to keep in mind that those dogs are built to pull heavy weight for about 5 miles. And it's going to take them an hour and a half to do that 5 miles. And I always say just like Jamie just said, you don't see Vin Diesel or Arnold Schwarzenegger running the Boston Marathon. And there's a reason for that. Endurance animals and bodybuilders, just not the same thing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, here's another good shot. Oh, actually, that guy in the front there on the right, he looks on your right. He looks like he's a mean bugger. But like you said, they're borderline wolves, right?
Yeah, yeah. And if you look at, and again, we have these stereotypes in our head of what wolves look like. But the wolves in your area of Ontario and Quebec, they average 70 pounds, 80 pounds. They're really not, these big 150-pound beasts that we usually think of them as being. They can be, but not usually.
They do have that wolf-like look to them. Eh?
Yeah, their eyes are
a lot of the same. Yeah, their eyes are cute. Honestly, they look lovable, but I don't think they are.
They actually are. The cool
They're
thing about
really
Jonathan's
lovable.
dogs, I mean, unless you feed them, just kind of back up. But you can walk right up, pick that dog up, carry it. It'll love you just like your house pet.
They're big babies.
You can, and it's the Siberian women. The Siberian women, as the folklore goes, the reason why these dogs are so gentle is to create a bond with humans. The Chukchi and Kuryak women of Siberia would actually breastfeed the puppies to create a bond with humans. I don't know if it's actually true or not, but that's the legend.
Doesn't sound legal.
Whatever the truth of it is, like you could have.
Amy, you want to chime in here?
There was enough stuff that was not illegal back in the day. I think that dog breastfeeding isn't very high up on that list. To be
The
honest.
statute of limitations is up on that one.
Yeah, I think so.
I told my wife, I was like, "Where's your dedication? I mean, I need a Siberian, a Chukchi Kuryak woman to breastfeed my dogs."
That's wild. So doing this expedition you're doing, Jonathan, what are some of the risks? What are the pitfalls that you have to be mindful of?
So everyone is, going to obviously think about the open water, the overflow, the drum ice. Not everyone knows what drum ice is, but drum ice is when the river freezes and then the water level goes down and then it freezes again. And you have this hollow drum of ice that can be 8-10 feet of hollow ice that you can just break right through. So there's lots of things like that people would normally think of when they think about traveling the Yukon in the winter. But knowing a lot of people who have traveled the coast, my biggest anxious moment is going to be the 200 miles traveling on the coast where you can have 100-mile-an-hour winds and all the snow just gets reduced to polished ice, and you're on hills, you're on coming down mountains, and it's just polished ice. And I know several mushers in the Iditarod who've just had their entire team just blown right off of hills. And so
it's dubbed the blowhole. It's that
the blowholes, yeah. And so that's the biggest. My biggest concern is going to be the winds on the coast.
Do you have to build shelters for the dogs? Like, do you have to build break walls and things like that to keep wind off them if they rest?
Yeah. So we just spent $2,000 on dog coats. So we got dog coats, we got dog boots. Most of that is, just so that most of it's because people don't really understand how winter hardy these dogs are. I'll give you an example. It was 40 below zero and we had a blizzard going here about a decade ago, and I was worried about my dogs. So I went outside in the middle of the night to check on them. It was 40 below, blizzard blowing hard. I went outside, shone my headlamp into their dog houses, and all of their dog houses were empty. And for a second, I thought, oh my gosh, they've all broken their chains. They've run away. Where's my dog team? And so I called for them. And when I did, all of their heads start popping up out of the snow. And then I realized that they were completely comfortable sleeping under the snow, and that snow was their blanket. And by calling them, I had made them jump out of it. So this is home to them. This is, like I said, 9,000 years. This is home. They're going home.
That's wild. Yeah.
Getting ready to head out on the trail here.
How many dogs do you have? Like, how many is in your, like, do you own like a whole fleet of them, or what are they, litter of them, I guess? Sorry, I'm not 100% accurate.
Enterprise rental
here.
So to someone outside of the dog sledding world, what I have is going to sound like a lot of dogs. I currently have 23 sled dogs in my dog yard. But to people who are familiar with dog sledding, it's nothing in Alaska for a competitive distance kennel to have between 100 and 160 dogs. So by dog sledding measurements, I have a very small kennel.
Oh, wow. And see, our friend Jacob Massar, he has a small kennel of sleds. He has 23 sleds.
That sounds like a problem too.
That's right. Exactly.
Oh, wow. Here's a nice rock bouncer.
Yeah. It's parade duty nowadays with the kids, but we used to do some cool stuff and wheel with all the buddies, and it progressively got out of control and turned into this. Gone down south, done a few races out there. I've been out to King of the Hammers, not in this buggy, but helping a buddy, Andrew McLaughlin, out there who races King of the Hammers. Done a real bunch of fun stuff. And
you're no stranger to extreme condition expeditions then, doing King of the Hammers then.
King of the Hammers, that was one of the funnest things that I've ever gone and done. And being right in the pits with the race crew, and ESOB Welding sponsored Andrew McLaughlin. They showed up with a 53-foot pup trailer, and the whole size of it opened up. So any welder you needed or any consumable, like you'd go grab one cutting wheel and the dude would hand you a box. So the King of the Hammers is nuts. And you know what? Great bunch of people. I've never seen so many people concentrated in one place and having a good time. That they call that one of the 10th toughest race in the world, and I believe it. Those guys are rock crawling. They're running across the desert like they're trophy trucks, and then having to be agile. That was a wild time. So
what's in this thing for an engine?
So
LS.
Nothing right now, actually. I sold the motor out of it.
Oh, was it a Chevy small block?
We're running LS-based motors, tuned up
with
PRC heads, 2.5 over cams from Tom down to 3V. So I got a 427 Thompson's Motorsports sitting over there. That might get crammed in this next, but right now I hot lap the neighborhood, go on tour, and go down and get ice cream on the causeway. So it doesn't really need much of a motor anymore, but that Toolman Taylor makes you want to grunt.
Yeah.
I've had 750 horse in that at times. But there's been times when we've been racing and I've ripped the oil pan clear off that motor at 6,000 RPM, 7,000, and she just ceased to desist. So whatever motor you got laying in the shop is what went in it for the next.
What was in next?
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan, look he hasn't even grown into his beard yet. Yeah. Isn't he cute?
He's so cute.
Oh yeah, I got no beard now. So this was this was this year. So what we do now is we throw all the kids in it. We go down, do the parades, throw some candy out, and cool. Just have a good time with all this stuff.
Did you hand build the frame?
If he cuts his beard that short before the expedition, I'll make sure he's my tent buddy for the 20 days we're out there.
He's got to keep it long, so he's got that Yukon Cornelius look going.
Yeah, I got to keep this going. I shaved it once. I can't do that again. Yeah.
What did you say? You said your nickname was Red Beard, or what did you say it was?
That's what Jonathan calls me. So Redbeard.
Redbeard the pirate.
We got a few nicknames.
Yeah.
There's Avery. That's downtown in the parade. So
That's freaking cool.
If you ever get a chance to go on a ride in one of these, it is the best hot lap you're going to get in your life. And you drive that thing with your right foot and keep it loose. And
it can't weigh much more than it's got to be lighter than a side by side, and it's got 4 times the horsepower. It's got to be the most crazy.
I weigh 3,600 pounds.
Holy crap!
I actually, because I wanted all the weight in the front because we're climbing such steep hills with these.
Yeah, you got to keep.
I actually had trouble with the back when we were launching it because it wanted a pogo stick. Brian Turner came out from ADS Shocks down in Tucson, Arizona, and he actually dialed this on in with us. And I had the rear of it so light that we were actually having trouble when we were launching it to keep it from pogo sticking. So we're running quadruple bypasses.
I see that. And then you got dual rate springs as well on that as well.
If you want a fun time, you got to get in the wheel of that thing. Like you keep it loose and it's fun. The neighbors will attest to it.
So did I ask, did you build the frame? Did you hand weld that?
Yeah, so I've always got buddies around that are doing stuff, but that is what come out of my head. Now I can't draw a stick figure, but I can build you that.
That's pretty cool.
So everything from the axles to the trauma, the knuckles, the building the transmissions, the building the motors, every bit of that. So, but I can't draw, but I can bend tube and
yeah.
Nice. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. This is probably when we had 700 horse. And that thing will land. It lands, it smooths, it touches. I will tell you this, we're running DOM drive shafts. We're running U-joints with no needles in them. Everything's flanged, Lomax cases, 300M tool seal for all the axle shafts, reed knuckles. Even though you got all those rugged components, when you land, you better have your foot off that throttle or you will yard sail the drive line.
Wow.
You'll hook traction. So you got to keep that thing loose and it will stay together. If you grab all of a sudden.
At power like that, traction is really not your friend.
You drive these like you're in a snowstorm and keep it loose.
Yeah, that's wild.
Jamie, tell them about your wedding with Amy that just walked out.
Oh, with my victory lap after we got married, hot lap in town.
Oh gosh. So
we got married down at Cove Rain Pond and we drove down there nice and easy, kept the wedding dress all nice and clean.
In this.
In this. Then on the way back, it's fair game. That dress coming off anyway, right? So we were blowing the mud holes and skimming all the water on the way out. And then when we got out on the main drag, I think that thing will run about $110, but it was tacked right out on the red limiter in third gear and drive in high range. So
that's
we
awesome.
were blowing through town.
David Brenham says nice rig, and Brappers TV says put some skis on that thing.
Yeah.
So if there might be some photos here. Now we're running natural. I thought about turboing it, but
supercharged. No, it's naturally aspirated. What size super swampers are on that thing?
So we're running the 43s. They're actually sticky TSLSXs. So just like a car tire at the drag strip, you'll get nice and sticky. When we want traction on the rocks, you white smoke them suckers and can crawl anything if you're nice and easy.
That is so cool.
I built tracks for it at one point, but you want to talk, so just like the snowmobile clubs would have tracks on. Yeah. I built a set of tracks for that. And you want to talk about a yard sale event. Stuff will fly apart.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get heavy D sparks to make you a set.
Yeah. You need some deeper wallets.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
This is up. This is actually right up by Jonathan up in northern Maine on Long Lake on the northern tip of Maine. So
cool.
This motor actually ceased to exist in his Mach Z after this because he wanted to see how fast that thing would run down that lake.
Oh, no.
She leaned out.
Oh, no.
So it had about 10 more minutes after this and she was done. Ooh. So that's got a set of CNAs on it right there. So
yeah, right on.
Oh, yeah.
Is this why
it got CNAs?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. He hit something.
He failed to negotiate a turn, even though he claims we don't know what happened. So, of course,
look at the pitch in those. Those look like prototype Sly Dogs now. Look at the pitch on those, Dad.
Yeah.
No, those are ski skins on a factory ski.
Yeah. That ski was wrapped right up around. So we got the come-alongs, the rigging, and the excavator holding. It's tied off to that dump truck behind it.
That's funny.
We got to straighten out.
And then for sale, never raced or abused.
Yeah, never wrecked. So this is how we just go on tour.
That's cool.
You got to bring the lodge and the rig with you.
That's great. Now you could almost put that camper body on the back of one of those coffins you made earlier.
Yeah, we probably could lug one of them right along.
Yeah.
So this is the wife's sled and her car, if you want to date how old she is.
Well, let's not discount the Jimmy in the picture. This is cool.
Yeah. That's the day she brought it home. So
yeah.
Wow.
And the Jimmy actually has a visor, sun visor on it. Like this is one cool rig.
Yeah, that's a throwback right there. So
yeah, that's great.
She bought that sled new. She will not let it out of her grips. As much as I try to leave it behind on every snowmobile trip and put her on a new one, that thing's got to come.
Oh, don't get rid of that thing.
She still owns it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
She had it since it's still in that good a shape too. But she'll ride the heck out of that thing.
Yeah.
It was
that's
6.
great.
Oh, look at that Formula Z.
Yeah, this was way back in the day. That had the bovine suspension on it. That was a good going sled for the teenage years.
Yeah. Look at Jonathan, him without a beard. I should have put these in order as his beard gets longer.
You could have had a timeline.
Wouldn't you be afraid of Jonathan not taking you on the expedition if he's seen you without a beard?
Probably think I weren't experienced enough.
What's going on here?
How is he going to
daughter Avery here? So I heard the four-wheeler abruptly stop as she's yanking it out of the bushes.
That's awesome.
So the boy is the one that's going to be good. The guys had to throw this one in.
Yeah.
So I come out of camp a little too hot.
Oh, jeez.
Turbo lit a little slow, eh?
Is that the trailer you were working on the inside before?
Yeah, so I don't believe in snowmobile trailers because they fall apart and they're all aluminum and all that. So I just pull a car trailer. And then it's usually too heavy for any of your buddies to drag.
Yeah.
So nobody borrows it. So, but yeah, this is up in Sangerville, Dover, Foxcroft. Yep.
Is that where that was? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So good riding up there right out of my buddy Greg's camp.
There's a better shot of that 600.
Yeah.
Jeez, the chrome windshield and everything. I love it.
And that's two years ago, I think. I mean, it's still beautiful.
Yeah, look at those trailing arms are like brand new.
Look at even the tunnel just has a little bit of black on it. It's pretty much still shiny.
Yeah.
Insane.
And yeah, she takes good care of it.
Yeah, it pays to take care of your shit.
Yeah.
We don't touch paint, do we, Jonathan?
Yep.
So this is actually out in Alaska. This is at Dallas Seavy's kennel. He's a 6-time Iditarod champion. It was a treat to go hang out with him and Mush. That's will be Mount McKinley, but the Denali in the background there.
The white dog. You'll probably have a name for him or her. Are they all male or female, or do they mix of gender on the dogs that you run?
So this is Dallas Seavy's kennel, and I trained with the Seavies, and although they have males and females, their race teams are only male, and so there's a lot of reasons for that. Some people run just females. Most people have mixed teams, but I've been leaning heavier toward male dominant teams in the last couple of years.
The females can give us a little bit of trouble if they come into heat.
So, I got you. Right.
Yeah. And then if they are in heat, you got to be careful where you put them. So it's just better off not to have them around.
Yeah. If they're in heat, don't you put them in the front like Rudolph and then
sometimes
bat out of hell to chase them?
Sometimes they chase that tail.
Yeah. Now the white dog there on the right, it looks like it's having a bad day, or is that the way that they look?
Yeah. And this is a prime example. That dog is this is the world champion kennel. So the 6-time reigning Iditarod champion, the greatest racing musher in the world, these are his dogs. So puts in perspective, like, the preconceived notions of what a sled dog is versus what it really is.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't look like a sled dog. If you had me pick it out of a lineup, it wouldn't be that one.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm really impressed with how small the kennels are. Like the little, what would you call those?
they want to be huddled up. So when they crawl on that, they want to be tucked in, huddled up, and burrowed up. They don't want to be in these big wide open spaces when it comes time to lay
The
down.
outdoor hobby guy had to leave the chat early, but he said, "Do you guys ever carry GPS beacons just in case?" He said, "What kind of tech do you use?" He said, "Tech is great now."
So in reaches, lots of Garmin, 100%. Satellite phones.
Are you going to run spots so people can follow you on the run too?
Yes. So we as he just mentioned, 3 of the 4 of us I know, and maybe all 4 of us have in reaches, so that we can message each other and if we need an SOS. But I just bought a Starlink Mini from our good friend there at Tesla, and so we will be sending out videos every day from the expedition using Starlink.
Yeah, I just got one of the minis for work. It's pretty sick, man.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. It's awesome.
And they'll be able to see those updates through Jonathan's page and through the Centennial SEPPALA page.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Do you think if you went back in a time machine 100 years and you talked to the original musher and you showed him your Starlink Mini, that he would not shoot you in your spot?
They'd probably think we were aliens at that point, right?
Call you a pansy and tell you to get out of his territory.
Yeah, and then I would remind him that he's only mushing 35 miles today, and then curling up into a roadhouse where a meal and a fire is waiting for him while we curl into our sleeping bags in a tent.
While pulling our own coffins behind our own sheets.
They claim Bill Shannon, well, he left Nenana and went to Old Memento the first night. They claim it was negative 68 degrees that first night of the serum run. So he might call us wimps.
Yeah, yeah.
The stories say they had to use hot water to get his mitts off of the sleigh.
Seriously. Wow. Well, I'm saying you get sweat and it might freeze like that too. I think we asked a bit about this, but Jonathan, what characteristics do you look for in a lead dog?
So the number one thing is forward drive. The number one thing is that they want to go down that trail, and they care about going down the trail and seeing what's around the corner more than they care about their buddies behind them, more than they care about who's in heat. So that's the number one thing, is a forward-oriented mindset. And then the second thing is a connection with the musher. And some dogs have more of that than others.
Yeah, right on. Chris Watson said when he was in the Middle East, a general was asked about dealing with people, and he answered, "The more I work with people, the more I like dogs."
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
That's more of a comment than a question, but
That's
I thought it was poignant.
That's great.
Ron Keslu asked, "How did the dogs get traction on that polished ice you described?"
Yeah, and I saw that question come up a couple times in the comments there. And another one said, "Do you put something on their feet when they're on the ice?" And actually, that's one of the times when you definitely don't want booties on the dog's feet. They naturally have claws. Their pads naturally provide traction, and so glare ice is one of the times where you don't want booties on the dog's feet, so that they can actually get traction with their claws and with their pads.
Right on. See, there we go. Now, when you're running these things, like this route in particular, I take it it's off the beaten path. Like it's not a groomed snowmobile trail. Like does Jamie and his partner pack down a spot for you to run, or is there going to be areas where you're going through deep snow?
Well, even with them breaking trail, we're still and you guys probably know this just from snowmobiling, but this past weekend, I had a guy go and break out the trails for us from the local snowmobile club before we went. But because the trail had not set, and you guys know how that is, you groom a trail, but then it needs time to set. Because we were on the trail an hour after he went out, it was like sugar, and the dogs were sinking in this deep. So even with Jamie and Jeff going out before us, depending on what the temperatures are, because the trails set up faster when it's like 20 below than they would at like, 0. But depending on how cold it is and how far ahead of us they are, even with them breaking trail, we're going to be dealing with some sugary trails.
It's just like grooming the snowmobile trails. If you can get out there right when the temperature's right and the sleds stay off it till the next day, we're much better off. We might have instances, depending on the snow load and what the locals are doing out there. We might break off and run a day ahead of Jonathan, and that's the reason for those caskets. So haul our own supply, we can crawl in. So there might be a day where we run out and pound ahead of him, get the air out of the snow, get it packed down, or maybe circle back to get a track set up. And some of it is to figure out the best way to go on out through there. Because based on the ice and the river and the snow, we might change course a little bit.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, the Yukon River, people have really no concept unless they see it, how wide this river is. I mean, 2 miles wide. And if you've got 4 or 5 islands in the river, and 1 or 2 of the ways between these islands are open water. You don't know that until you've gone down it. So a lot of that's going to be Jamie going out and scouting that to see, which vein of the river around which islands, that we're going to want to go.
And we'll be talking to the locals too while we're on out there, because those locals in the villages understand that river, and you got to respect their opinion and knowledge of it. So when we get into these villages, we'll be seeking out those locals, the old timers, saying, run this way, stay off the river here. We were advised actually north of Nenana to be very mindful of the winds and the snow insulation blanket, because they said the wind will push the snow down the river, create these 6-foot tall berms. And once you get over that, it's thin ice. So we'll be relying on them too to give us some firsthand knowledge of the conditions.
Yeah, I guess that makes a huge difference, right?
This is that boat I need wrapped.
Yeah. That's needed. That needs the wrap. Yeah.
Again, do you weld that body up?
So I ordered the kit to build one of these, and then I found this down in Connecticut, and it was cheaper for me to go buy this and scavenge all the parts out of one. So I ended up just purchasing this. But this is a Checkthrm kit here that's running a 300 horse skidoo in it. That thing is a walking beast.
That's awesome.
Those things are sick. Like those are gotten really popular. That's like Dad. That's kind of like what Cleater has. Like
that's
Cleater's got some of those new one wrapped, and they're sweet because you just run a Sea-Doo RX P300 under them.
Yeah, Cletus is the reason I went and bought one of them, because I was cruising YouTube one day and went, no. And then that became my wife's problem.
Now I got to get one. Yeah.
These things crank. We've jumped the rapids. We got a local river here. Yeah, here she is in good spirits.
I want to try wakeboarding behind one. I think that would be pretty fun.
That thing would rip you right up, no problem. I just have to put the posi nozzle down, because right now I got a jet on it from New Zealand. We shoot a 25-foot rooster tail up behind the boat.
That's freaking cool.
I run a 75-foot rope, so that's not a problem. I'll be fine.
We're running dual pumps now, so pretty good time.
That's cool.
See, they're just in the harness. They want to go.
Yeah, that's wild. How much is there a known weight of what one dog can pull? Like, what are they rated for?
So, yeah. And, you were talking about how much smaller they appeared to you. The interesting thing about the Siberian dogs in particular, pound for pound, they are the strongest dog in the world, pound for pound. They can pull more weight per their body weight than any other breed of dog. So that's the thing that we look at. So on average, if you're running distance, each dog, in general, you don't want to have more than 50 pounds of pull of weight for every dog on your team. But but for short distances, heavy weight, like Jamie said, I mean, we had a 750 ATV parked with the parking brake on, and we were hooking 14 dogs to it a couple weeks ago. And by the time we got dog 12 on and went to get dog 13, they started dragging the ATV out of the yard. Yeah.
I love it. Someone commented, gorgeous pics. David Brenham says Mike says they look happy in their harnesses from that last job. But look at this. They're just ripping.
This actually shows some of like their CrossFit style strength right here.
Yeah. Yeah, like look at the top of their back leg on the one closest to me.
Look at the muscle on that
crazy
right there. You can literally see it coming through the fur.
So, Jonathan, what are some of the commands that you mentioned a few of them? Like, what are your key commands?
So you really don't have to say anything to get them to go, but we do, because it's all about that positive reinforcement, so that when you want them to go and it's been a long day, they'll respond to it. So some mushers say hike, some mushers say very few mushers actually say mush, but there are a couple of them out there. I'll just say, okay, hup, and, they'll go. And I just do that over and over again, so that, like I said, when it's been a long day and I need them to go and they're resting, they'll have that immediate response to that command. Then we have G for right, haw for left. And they respond a lot to the tone of your voice. So let's say if you're heading toward a cliff and you want them to stop, you don't say, whoa, 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 because that sounds like hike, 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 hike to them.
Right.
They're hearing the tone. So as nervous as you are about going over that cliff, you still have to, in a low, calm voice, say, whoa. And then they understand, okay, we're shutting down. And so a lot of it has to do with the tone of your voice. Pretty
cool. And also get coffee. That's for Jamie, right? That's
I think I can drink anybody. I can outdrink anybody when it comes to coffee. I drink about a pot and a half, 2 pots a day.
That's awesome. Not sure if the question was asked, but what's a dog like that worth? Are they insured?
Yeah. So I had the owner of Mushing Magazine. I probably shouldn't say this, but I just did. So the owner of Mushing Magazine flew down from Alaska and bought the pick of my litter 2 years ago for $6,000 and then flew back to Alaska. So they can run a lot of money. What we do, if it's because there are so few of them left in the world, there's only about 5 SEPPALA kennels left in the world. And so if I'm selling to another SEPPALA kennel, it's going to be, I'm being honest, about half the price that it would be if I was selling to someone who, just wants a pet, or somebody who's, a hobbyist that's not, if that dog's going to be taken out of the breeding pool by me selling it, it's going to sell for a lot of money or it's
more.
Not.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't want them just as a pet, because they really need to work, don't they?
They'd be a horrible pet.
They're not great pets. They're very destructive. And I've got a big 120-pound German Shepherd that keeps walking in here. And I'll tell you, because in the Marine Corps, I also worked with search and rescue dogs. And there's a big difference in trainability and intelligence. Arctic Spitz breed dogs consistently test higher on intelligence than a lot of dogs that you would normally think are really intelligent. But dogs that are really trainable, like a German Shepherd, like a Rottweiler, like a Doberman Pinscher, like a Lab, just because a dog is extremely trainable doesn't mean they're extremely intelligent. These dogs are very intelligent, but they're very independent. And there's a reason for that. If I yell at my lead dog and I say my lead dog's name, the last thing I want is my lead dog to turn around and come back to me and accordion my team, and I got 12 dogs all piled up in a mess of line, right? They have to be independent. They hear you giving them a command. They hear you talking back there, but you don't want them turning around and coming back to you. So that independence has really been bred into them.
They got to kind of know one's got to run faster than the others to keep that line tight, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key. Is you watch that line, you see the line there in the photo. As a musher, it's your job, no matter how steep the hill is you're coming down, it's your job to keep that gang line tight like that. And the reason is you want them, as you can see all those dogs are doing, they're all leaning into their harness and they're trusting that harness is going to hold up their weight. And so they're going to trust their weight into that harness. If you let that gang line get loose and they lean in, they're going to stumble forward and they're going to stop trusting the harness. And
So you're on the brake as you're going downhill.
Oh yeah,
Just
braking
slower.
hard.
Yep.
You can
Keep
see
that
the
line
snow
tight.
flying up behind me there because I'm braking hard just to keep that gang line tight.
Yeah. So Mike, the Motorsport channel, I heard that in the worst conditions, visibility 0, the dogs still make it home. I kind of believe it, but I just want to confirm.
Yeah, so making it home is the key. These dogs, as I mentioned, I think it was 2 hours ago, these dogs have incredible GPS systems in their brains. They know where they're at in relation to where they've been. And you can take them to a trail that they've only been on once 3 years ago, and they can still remember the turns. My lead dogs can. Now, of course, we're going to be taking these dogs up to Alaska on trails, 750 miles that they've never traveled before. So I can't, assume that they're going to, be psychic and know where they need to go up there. That said, they can smell, even if it's been 3 days ago since the snowmobile went through there, they can smell the particles that came from the snowmobiles. They can smell where previous dog teams have been, and they can feel that and see that and smell it and sense it in ways that you and I can't.
That's pretty wild.
This is Jamie here being crazy in a flooded area.
Well, I couldn't get under the bridge, so we took the road.
That's wild. I think that's another video too.
Oh yeah. I don't know if this one might be a little boring.
Okay.
But I think Avery's out running laps. So it's up at one of the races there. That's actually out in Willow. It's Willow, Alaska there.
Yeah. What's the long-term forecast look like for the weekend that you're doing the race?
So today was the first time I got a 14-day forecast that included our takeoff day. And it was showing that it's going to be 13 degrees as a high and 3 degrees as a low, which is really good for that time for this time of year there. So I'm happy with that. As long as we can. I mean, if I had my druthers, I'd say I wouldn't want it to get above 10 degrees and I wouldn't want it to get colder than 20 below.
Yeah. Wow. Right on.
I had a moment where I wasn't thinking, and I was like, 13 degrees. That's like, I forgot Celsius, Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah.
I had a moment there. And I was like, 13. I thought you said that it was good. I thought, yeah, it's a little. You sure you're going dog sledding or dog swimming? Like, what's going on? That global warming has really killed Alaska. No.
What makes their eyes look like this, John?
Yeah, so great question. The reason why so many of these Arctic Spitz breed dogs have these ice blue eyes is because if you think about it, during the winter up there, they go, months without very much daylight. So their eyes have to be able to process very low levels of light so that they can see and so that they can travel in very low levels of light. So these whitish blue eyes help them to process more light in low light situations. They can travel by moonlight. They can travel, just by the dusk and dawn of the sun on the horizon when they don't get very many hours of daylight.
But they're also flexible enough that when it's super bright, it doesn't like overexpose.
Right. Yeah.
So when you look at these pictures, you've only got 20 some odd dogs. Every one of these like your own kids, right?
Oh yeah. And you know what? Actually, I don't like this is Hatchet that you're looking at right now. Hatchet is one of our new leaders. His dad, Druid, is our primary leader, and his grandmother, Frost, was our leader before she passed away. So he's a third generation leader in our kennel.
Yeah, Lapoinski 800R says he can't tell if it's going to bite you or lick you.
Oh, it's so happy in this photo. I'm not even concerned.
Are they likable, like lickable? Like, are they big?
They're extremely. They're as Jamie was saying earlier. I could take a 2-year-old toddler that these dogs don't know and let them walk into my kennel, and every one of them would make extra care to make sure that the toddler got a lick and wasn't knocked over. I mean, these guys are really, really, really very friendly dogs.
You can walk right up to every one of these and pick it up, carry it.
Is there anything like that's a great shot too. These photos are amazing. Is there anything like the like if you have kids around them, like is it wrong when is it just maybe when you're training them that you have people doing bad influence on them?
Yeah, so I mean, people do need to, you know, and not everyone understands this because not everyone spent the kind of time around dogs that I have, but people do need to understand that if a dog is shy around your kid should not force himself on the dog. I always, when I was running dog sled tours, you know, like I was saying in the White Mountains with 160 sled dogs from all over Canada and the United States that had been rescued, I would tell people all the dogs here are friendly. None of them want to bite you. But if you walk up to pet a dog and the dog shies away from you, leave the dog alone. Go on. There's plenty other dogs here that want to get petted. If the dog tells you he doesn't want to be petted, just keep walking by and go on to some other dog. A lot of people just, you know, you tell them you've got a friendly dog and then they just let their kids climb all over your dogs. And that can be bad for the dog and it can be bad for the kids too.
Yeah, we always kids always asking to pet our dog because it looks like Scooby-Doo, and we just go, no, it's not. No, and people think we're mean because it's like we don't want the dog to jump and lick you to death, right?
Yeah, it's a boxer Rottweiler cross, and it has all the wrong traits from each dog. It has the energy of the boxer and the tongue of the Rottweiler.
That's great.
So it's a licking machine.
No, when I was putting these pictures over, I was thinking Jonathan probably knows these dogs like
every one of these mushers knows their dogs. You can Mitch Seavey, even Dallas. There's 160 dogs running around, and they're rattling off the names left, and they know the ancestry behind them. It's pretty
that's
impressive
wild.
how these handlers care. No,
this one's beautiful, like the blue eyes and.
Crazy.
So what are the native dog food? How much food do you give a dog a day roughly? Like our dog has 3 cups a day, like cup and a half in the morning, cup at night. What are these dogs when they're not training, like when they're not working, when they work, and let's do a comparison of when they don't work, like, and when they're working. When they're
not working, these 23 dogs will go through a 40-pound bag of dog food a day when they're not working. When they are working, they'll go through a 40-pound bag of dog food and 10 pounds of raw beef.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's vodka.
Vodka. I love the name. Very cool. And the tongues, like what do you think your dogs all have the crazy tongues? Like,
yeah. So Vodka is one of the oldest dogs in our kennel, and you can kind of see it in her face. She's an older dog. But the tongue, like, this is a 30-degree day, and that's hot for them. And, you know, this goes back to what we were saying before. Dogs don't sweat. The way they disperse heat is by panting. And so letting that tongue out and opening that mouth really wide helps them to dissipate a lot of heat really quickly. So at 30 degrees, she's saying it's too hot out today is what she's saying here.
Yeah, that's the thing. They must get hot. They must sense heat in, 0 degrees kind of thing, or -10 or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, and I'm sorry I keep using Fahrenheit. Us Americans, we're stubborn that way.
When they get into the cold, like you turn off of a sunlit trail and it's 10 degrees out, and you turn into that shade, into the woods. It's just like our snowmobiles when it's dropped 10 to 20 degrees out and they just start running better. Dogs are the same way with the temperature. They just turn on.
Yeah. This one's, what's this dog's name?
So his name is King. Actually, I gave him that name because when he came to me, his name was Melek, and I'm like, I'm not yelling Melek. And the crazy thing about this guy is he was neutered before he came to me, unfortunately, because he's lean, he's kind of hard to keep weight on, he's a little finicky eater, but he has turned into one of my best lead dogs. He's become a really fantastic, reliable dog. He's really shy around strangers, but King he's a fantastic sled dog. You just can't, he doesn't get exhausted at all. He's got great eyes too, huh?
Yeah. Is he blind in one eye? I was wondering.
No, this is bi-eyed. So they can have brown eyes, they can have blue eyes, or they can have one of each.
That's insane.
Yeah. And some humans have this bi-eyed too. But he's just a bi-eyed boy. And this is,
I've been pie-eyed before. Is it the same?
What's that?
I've been pie-eyed before. Is it the same? So they're actually, both these dogs are bi-eyed.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. They look so friendly and cute.
Oh yeah.
Again, kudos to the photographer, because these pictures you can count the hairs on them.
Yeah, this is Caleb's work right here.
The videographer that'll be coming and making a documentary about the expedition. He took these photos.
Very cool.
Caleb's
what kind of care do you have to take in their fur? What kind of care do you have to take in their fur and their claws and things like that? Yeah,
so you really want to brush, especially these heavy coated dogs like the one you're showing right here in the foreground. When they blow their coats, you really want to work on brushing them as often as you can to get last year's coat out, because with a thick dog like this, it can really mat up if you don't stay on top of it. But for the most part, they're really clean natured dogs. You want to brush them out when it's mud season. You want to brush them out often, but other than that, they pretty much keep themselves pretty clean.
Very cool. And do you actually trim their nails, or they naturally wear out?
No, I trim them. I trim them during the off season, but during the training season that starts in September to now, they're wearing their own nails down just by the work.
If they had fast tracks, they wouldn't be wearing out. But
no, exactly. We could probably get Chris to make us some fast track stud shoes for him.
The cool thing about Jonathan's dogs, where they're purebred too, is the hair between the pads. They don't create the ice balls, so that's a big thing to mention about the maintenance with them in the coat.
Yeah, they've got really great feet, really tough feet, compact.
If you look right there, you can see the size of the paw on it for a small dog.
Yeah,
the rugged footprint.
They always say a dog will grow into it, but there's a good shot when I look at. When I didn't mean any disrespect to say malnutrition, because I know they're not, but when you think of a dog, like you look at this picture and how skinny, you look at the size of his head and the size of his paws, and the body is just lean as.
Our house pets are overweight couch potatoes.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So we just get that persona in our head.
Yeah. Dale Cates, welcome to the chat, Dale. How often do they break their kennel chains, and do they stick around or run off?
Tell them about the 4th of July.
So they do break their chains often, and probably about actually today when I went out to feed them just before this podcast. I was going doghouse to doghouse with my headlamp on, and I went to a doghouse and I'm like, oh crap, where is he? And he was over with one of my females that's in heat. So, the great thing about having 50 acres and being a mile from the nearest paved road is there's more to entertain them and keep them busy around the kennel than there is, anything that's going to entice them to run away. So for the most part, my females actually will go exploring and hunting more than the males do. The males are more concerned with their dominance and their rank in the kennel and establishing themselves and maybe hooking up with a female.
Yeah. So it doesn't change.
It's a lot like humans.
Yeah. Just like us on Friday night.
Yeah.
You said you did say it was July 4th weekend, right? So anything goes.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful. So when you're breeding constantly, obviously, right? So when you first try and train a dog, are you putting one amateur dog in with a fully trained pack, or do you want to do 2 at a time? Like, what does the regiment look like?
Yeah. So the team you're looking at here, this is a really good example of a made lead dog versus a born leader. Hatchet there up in the front, the one on our left. He's 3rd generation lead dog, really great. The little tiny white female next to him, I kept her not because she showed promise. I kept her because she was the runt of the litter, and I didn't want to sell her and embarrass my kennel for her going out and being a bad representation of our kennel. So I kept her, and then I hooked her up and what you do is you hook them up in a small team like the one you're looking at here, 4 or 5 dogs at first. The first time I hooked her up, I put her in the back of the team with some veteran experienced dogs, just 4 or 5. And every time we'd stop, she'd lean out and try to pass the dogs in front of her. And, so I kept moving her up the team. And within 2 months, she was leading 12 dog teams. She's not very strong. She's not very big, but she's really fast and she's really dominant. And she was like, no, you don't understand. I'm not just a sled dog. I'm a lead dog. I'm supposed to be up there. So some lead dogs are made like Hatchet there on the left, and some of them are just born leaders like her.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Look at the tongue.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, there she is.
She's like, let's go.
She'll be beside a big male too, and she'll snap him right into shape.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to watch. She is in charge of her show.
Going back to that picture, those dogs are just tied up to the sleigh. Is it anchored into the ground or anything?
There's a trip stake there behind them. So you tie a knot around a post with a trip stake in it. Otherwise, they'd be gone.
Is that the one way back to the right there, that post that you see?
It's tied off to that post, and you can kind of see the stick hanging out.
Yeah, I got you. That's cool. I was going to say, because how they
Otherwise, you would not walk away from that team.
Yeah. He almost looks like the gentleman on the left. Almost looks like the guy from Ice Age.
Did the sloth.
Sid, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You should call one Sid.
Looking for an acorn, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Scrat.
Scrat. That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it's Scrat. I'm getting a lot of it's Pat says Scrat too.
Yeah.
Look at, we got everybody changing their profile pictures to their dogs.
Oh,
not that. What do we got here? Pat's was a dog. Yeah, pretty cool.
everybody's gone soft on us.
I know. What Jamie, you got to come back next week.
What have I done to your show?
Gone to the dogs.
Yeah, it's gone to the dogs, literally.
Join us next Monday for dog sessions.
Yeah, that's right. Brought to you by Purina. Yeah. Very cute.
It's cool though. If you ever get a chance to get behind a team, it's a great experience.
I'd love to try it. The show, what was it? The Amazing Race. The last time they did it, I think it was the Canadian edition of Amazing Race. They had a dog sled circuit. They had to go around once, I think, and the one girl was flipping the sled over and stuff. I think it was the last one, or it was two seasons ago. But I thought I'd love to try it. I think it would be kind of cool.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
It's peaceful. I mean, as much as this looks chaotic, it's relaxing.
No, we only hear about Jamie and his partner tonight. How many people are on your crew?
So there's a total of 4 of us. Jamie's mentioned Jeff, who's going to be running the Scandic, and then we have the videographer Caleb from Quebec that'll be joining us, and he does a lot of work for North Face, and he's done some work for Red Bull. And he's going to be joining us to make a documentary on the expedition.
Right on. I would have thought there'd be more people involved, right?
Well,
yeah.
Slim will be lean.
Small is better.
Small is better.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
That being said, at the same time, our team, I guess you would say, is a little bit bigger than the 4. Jonathan support up north. I've got the support down here in the shop between the neighbors with all the Reinhardts, Sassus, and some of the guys you saw in the photos all stepping up. Keith Rogers from another diesel shop giving us a hand. And then when we get to Alaska, we have a whole support network out there and Jonathan's really created that with all the locals along the way. So even though we're a 4-man team, we are relying on a bit of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And without the guys in Alaska, we'd really be held up because they're the ones with firsthand knowledge.
I mean, just to prove the point, just since we've been talking, the mayor of Nenana, Alaska, where we're starting our expedition, has sent me 3 text messages to ask me if we're going to sign on to their town planning meeting that starts in 15 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll be up to midnight at some point on another.
Yeah, no, that's cool. We'll make sure you get there in 15 minutes. That's no problem. So I just want to say this is great. This is a good shot because you can see the dog houses in the background there, how small they are and low to the ground, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is you really want them to be insulated by snow all around them, and I have them oriented the way I do because of the direction. You can see the sun setting there in the west, and here in our part of the country, and probably where you're at too, weather patterns usually come in from west by northwest, so you have those openings away from where the weather patterns come in, and you just let that snow build around the doghouse for insulation.
Oh, cool. Oh, another great shot. You're barehanded here. How warm was it that day?
Oh yeah, man, I run hot. I mean, sometimes when I start off, especially when I start off and I've been hooking up dogs, I'll go without a hat on. This is the quickest way for me to cool down is this bald head of mine, and then after I cool down, after an hour or so on the trail, I'll start clothing back up again.
That's wild.
There we are, the beginning of December there.
Yep.
First run of the year, really, on snow.
Yep.
That's cool. And so you're running all of your dogs at once here, are you? Is it
yeah, in this photo, and usually to what you said earlier, usually we'll run ATVs until we get snow. I was on ATVs until that weekend. And even right now, I mean, just for safety's sake, I'll hook 14, 16 dogs to a snowmobile just so that I can train more dogs in less time and not have to spend so much time out at night.
Yeah. So when
right
you
now,
look at, sorry, go ahead, Jamie. Sorry, I missed that.
I said, so right now there's hardly enough snow for an ice hook or to even get those dogs stopped. Is part of the reason too. He's on the sleds.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, we got no way to stop them. Right now they just run because you can't
right.
get.
I hear you. Right. So if you look at this dog on the right, my right at the back or whatever, I'm looking at the dog at the back. It looks like he's kind of getting out of line, but he's just leaning onto the harness. Is that what he's doing?
Actually, yeah, he's being caught right in the middle of a lunge. He's trying to get the sled restarted again. And that photo was taken just as he's crouching to slam into his harness again.
Is it usually one dog that makes a decision that the others follow?
There's usually some cheerleaders. I call them cheerleaders on the team. There's usually 3 or 4 that within 30 seconds of you stopping, they're screaming and slamming their harnesses to go again. And I call them the cheerleaders of the team because they amp everybody else up.
And the dog in front of him on his right is going like, come on, not now.
Yeah.
Looking back going like, really?
Let's chill.
Down. Yeah. Like, have another Red Bull.
Yeah.
Do they run in certain, I think we already talked about this, but these dogs that we're looking at here, the 2468, are they always the same? Like, will the dogs in the other packs behind you get jealous?
So we do swap them out a lot. And the reason is, if you can trust, like Druid there, the wider dog in the front is my primary leader. I always want to be developing new leaders. If you rely too heavily on one leader, you can kind of paint yourself in a corner. So I've tried to adopt Mitch and Dallas Seavey's mentality. They're the reigning Iditarod champions in Alaska. I've tried to adopt their mentality that every dog on the team should be able to lead. Doesn't mean they're all going to be great leaders, but they all should be able to run up front with nothing in front of them and have that forward drive. And so that's what I try to work towards. So I'll swap these dogs out fairly often. And there's 3 teams there, and each one of them with 2 leaders up front. That's really good training for all of them.
Yeah, these are dynamic photos.
So if you look in the background there, you can see the power line. We just came down, and after we came down, before we could come down that power line, we had to climb up it. So these dogs had just really hauled us up a pretty stiff little mountain there.
Now, after 40 miles on your way back, you got to run up that.
Yeah.
You got to
you're getting off the sled and running beside it.
Yeah.
To kind of lighten it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when you realize how good a shape you're in.
It's got to be tough though, because you're wearing all that gear though too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you're doing that like racing scene through the movie where you're ripping clothes off as you're running.
Yeah, that's
like you're
right.
coming down the beach towards that pretty girl.
So that's why he's in bare hands, is because he's been running beside the sled.
You're working, man. You're working.
Yeah.
The other thing you're trying to do is acclimate yourself with this is early in the season.
Yeah, true, right? You're out of shape. The dog's maybe better shape than you are, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Get used to the cold. It's like you drive to work with the heat off in the truck, so you get used to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful spot up. We're headed towards Grand Isle here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Up on the northern border. Canada, just across the river.
Oh,
That's
that's
Canada
cool.
right there in the back.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, that hill actually is Canada.
Yeah,
That's,
the river's right in the valley there.
Yeah.
Beautiful
right
spot.
on. Yeah, you guys are lucky. This is quite an experience. Were these birds any significant?
I think he just decided to take some photos. I think those were. I think
We
those,
weren't doing anything cool.
I think those were Canadian seagulls coming down.
They were the shithawks, as they call them.
The sky rats.
Yeah, no, that's what we call Canada geese now, or is the sky rat?
Cobra chickens is the more common
Canada
one.
geese. Yeah,
These potato fields are actually tough, like before there's a track on them, because they don't have that beaten path or a scent yet.
Bam, bam, bam. Actually, Jamie, it's funny you say that, because I mushed through there Saturday and I found a piece that fell off of your sled in that field right there.
Oh, you got my runner?
that's hilarious.
So a part of the sled fell off while I was mushing, so instead of standing on something that wide, I was on something that wide.
I was like, no one told me they lost a runner out here. And I know I was the only musher on that trail, so it had to be one of you guys.
That's hilarious.
Would have fallen off mine. I had no foot pad anymore. That's why I was on one leg all day.
How deep of snow can they run in? Have you had them right up to their bellies, or what?
So I've got some great photos of that little girl Juno leading a team through chest deep snow, and she's just bounding like this just to work through it. And they've got that forward drive, man, if they're a good lead dog.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the dogs. I was talking about this Skidoo XP.
Well, good thing my wife's not sitting beside, because she was running that. So
no, that's cool. I've seen pictures of dogs in deep snow, but I didn't know how you run them. Here's a great sponsor photo right there.
I will not bow to sponsors. Native dog
that's
food.
right. Native dog food. Exactly. Yeah, these are great shots.
it just shows how docile they really are.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. And you're gonna probably make your other show tonight.
Well, thanks.
But listen,
for
how do people follow you? How do we stay in touch and follow?
I put their Facebook in earlier here. I can grab it again while they're talking.
Yeah. Facebook, and then this is really easy. Our Centennial SEPPALA Expedition website is simply Mush Maine. Mushmain.
Mushmain. Cool.
Mushmain.com. Yeah. And there we have a page dedicated to daily updates. We also do video daily updates on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook on Mushmain as well.
Yeah.
And if you
Please
check
keep in
out
touch.
Centennial SEPPALA Expedition on Facebook too, you can see the daily updates really quick and follow that of all the progress we're making along the way.
Yeah. Good luck to you. David Brennan says, man's
Thank
best
you.
friend, Pat says.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And no, thank you for taking the time tonight and sharing your expedition. Please stay in touch. Keep us in the loop of what you do. Send some pictures after the event too, Jamie.
Yeah,
and Jonathan drop some in
you'll
there.
be able to see updates. You'll be able to watch our InReach Garmin's, ping to Facebook. You'll be able to see us make. We're even going to be posting the journey because we're pulling out of here Saturday morning. I'm going to go pick Jonathan up. He's 6 hours north of me. And then we're going to cross, and we got 4,000 miles about to cover.
Yeah, I think I was listening to your wife on another podcast today. She said we were traveling 4,700 miles. So I think that's probably about right.
Well, yeah, and we're taking the 400,000 mile pickup out there. So
yeah, nice. One DC says excellent show. Chris Watson, great show. Well done, Jamie, and all the best in the races, and of course those wonderful dogs.
Thank you.
Can we donate to that site? Pat wants to know.
Yeah, so there's a sponsorship, there's donation buttons, and we've even got a merch store on the website where you can get expedition hoodies, expedition photos, and the limited edition prints of that painting that was done by John Van Zyl to commemorate this expedition. You can get a print of that, and all of that goes to help support the expedition. And if you're more on the gear side of it with snowmobiles, reach out to us in any of the ways that you guys are given, and I'll connect you with Jamie because Jamie's invested a lot, and there's been a lot going into the gear and equipment on the machine end.
Yeah, it's the nickel and dime effect. And if anyone's got any ideas, suggestions, like, hey, you really ought to have this bush saw with you, or you really ought to have that on your sled, give us a ring. Let us know, and we're open to suggestions.
Cool. I love that. Throwing sparks.
That's local.
Yeah, he's in the chat every week, and he says we'll look for you guys at the Ferris Barbecue in Presqu'île Isle.
I'll take that barbecue.
Yeah, Pat,
I'm gonna miss actually riding through Presque Isle with all my buddies this year because we've been so devoted with this. I haven't even fired a sled up around the yard, and my buddies do this backpack trip every year. We ride the county and put thousands of miles on. I am going to miss doing that with them this year, but I think this is going to be pretty epic.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. Hit the like button, guys, everybody watching before you leave, and make sure you follow these two guys and their expedition. I think it's pretty awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, and I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
No problem.
Been great. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, take care.
Yep.
Good night.
It's a journey.